connection, but it's not saying go live. Okay, go live, right? Okay.
Are we live?
I've pressed the button now to go live, and now it's having a think. Okay, hi, you're with Scott. I'm Ganjikidd. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is right here. And your left here. I'm the Super Chuffer. This is Steve of the Dead, and this is Thus, a podcast about how people think, feel, and behave. It's new. It's a new year. It's a new start. I've got a new setup. I've got a new system. I've got a new software program running multiple facets, so that you're seeing a picture of the Queen behind us, but it could be a video.
Furious.
And you could hear it.
That Johnny had wrecked the
and
thing.
Steve can hear it. So I can hear Steve, you can hear him. We need to do a little quick check that that's all going to happen. So Steve, do you want to introduce yourself and say who you are and what you're doing? And I'll listen to you secretly on the flip side.
Okay, yeah, I'm Steve of the Dead. You all know me. I've actually, for a change, I've got Lucozade in a can rather than a bottle, because that's quite nice out of a can. But yeah, this was a very interesting one to put together. I realised partway through that I would be absolutely crap at the big I'm Steve of the Dead, because it's just I struggled to think of things that weren't the Queen, Elon Musk, or the war in Ukraine. It was surprisingly difficult. So
the Queen,
yeah,
so I think I can hear you. Everyone out there in Chatland, if you tell me if you've got any problems, I'm going to pop out the chat and make sure it's very prominent on my screen for that reason. If you tell me, you can say you can hear and see and hear us, that's brilliant. Like, to be honest, that is really, I feel so waves of, I've had the COVID for the last week, so I've not been able to do as much as I've wanted to, and I still feel a bit brain foggy, and getting all this set up today has been a bit of an anxiety driver, so I feel a great wave of elation knowing that you can actually hear us. That's fantastic. I mean, if anything goes on in the show, you tell me, oh, we can't hear this, or I'll fix it as we go. It'll probably result in me just like pressing all the different buttons until something works, but you know, we're getting there. So with that way,
don't worry about it, mate. I mean, it scares the shit out of ALT as well. We had a practice run. We tried, you know, all the settings and things. We got everything working. We're good. We're good, man.
We're good. I just don't know which. I've got more windows open than Buckingham Palace, mate. That's my favourite joke. And I don't know which one I should be keeping on top and which one I should. I suppose I'll use OBS and chat. They're probably the main ones, aren't they? And then I need. This is the news. We're going to be talking about 2022. We're going to be covering the year, aren't we, Steve? We're going to be going back over old ground, digging it all up, dredging it all up, and then we're going to look into the future as well. I know that it's just past New Year, so maybe people aren't that like hyped for, you know, the old news, but I think it's going to be a good test of our new system, being able to use different videos, being able to, even if you suggest something in chat. Oh, it sounds nicer now, thanks. If you suggest something in chat and you want us to pop it up on the screen, you can tweet either Steve or me, and we can grab the link and we can pop it on the screen. I can show you, you know, videos. Steve can, like, the difference we've got going today is that Steve can hear it live as well. Steve's echoing like there's two of him. Is that right?
Apparently now it's better, so.
Oh, it was better now.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I'll ignore that.
Whatever you've pressed, don't press it again.
Because if he does echo like there's two of him, then maybe that's because I was checking the sound at that point and I pressed the button so that I could hear it. Don't get me confused. Yeah. Like the COVID's like a brain fog. Yeah. Anyway, so this is less scripted. It's about testing the system, and hopefully it's going to provide more interaction. And even to the future, this system allows us to bring in more guests. So
and more meaning.
This is going to be more meaningful. Content. It's like meaning times x10. Like it's x10 meaningful. Yeah, it means that we're going to be able to be more interactive on that level. The cat now.
Oh, is that your cat? I thought that was my cat.
She's giving it some now. She knows. This is the Minka. Minka wants to say hello. Meow meow Minka. Aww. There you go. Right, now she's out the door. Go on. Yeah. So. What I will say as well at the top of the show before we get going into what we're doing is that in the future we can now bring in guests. We can bring in more guests. So if anyone wants to have a voice or be part of a podcast, you know, in the way that we're doing this, and anyone's got any ideas about anything psychological or you know, their feelings and thoughts, we can start bringing them in. We can open the door to many other people being on the show at any time. We might even consider moving, like, you know, step by step, you know, maybe one person at a time, but moving towards something more interactive in the future. And me and Steve are also going to be able to play gameplay together, like live on cooperative. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, we were talking about that. I'm not entirely sure how good it'll be.
But it gives us more strings to the bow.
Stuff to do, yeah.
Yeah, more stuff to do. So this is
More
a big
bugs.
test of the system. But if you've got anything today, especially if you've got anything you want us to bring up on the screen, or news stories that we don't cover, or things you want us to talk about, then you can, frankly, on this one. So this should all be good.
Just probably like layout to begin with. We are going to cover like the big three things. Like I said, we're going to cover like the Queen and Elon Musk buying Twitter. We're going to have to talk about like the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And those are like the big things. But there's some other little minor things as well as major events. And also, it probably is going to be a bit British centric. Sorry, but we have had 3 prime ministers this year, so yeah, we got a bit to talk about there.
Yeah, we've had 3 prime ministers, but only the Queen died. But we had 3 prime. If we could have kept the Queen and just had the prime ministers die. Anyway, look, I'm just putting you a little audio limiter on and close that, and then I'm messing a little bit with the settings in the background. I'm sorry. I'm turning you up a little bit just for me to feel good. You tell me in chat if the balance is right as well, because that's important to me. Like that's something that I can't tell because I'm not hearing everything in balance.
Chat, help Scott calm down.
Smoking and having COVID isn't helping either. But right, so I'm going to play. We'll start. Should we get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
let's
I'm going to start us off with. I've got this little bit from the BBC News. It's the 2022 biggest stories in 74 seconds. So if they think it's big, it's big. And
Novak Djokovic has been deported.
Rules are rules. Russia.
And then that was that bang. That went really, really quick, didn't it? But Novak Djokovic got deported. I was going to refer to some of our own content as well. This year I started streaming, and I actually did cover that in one of my streams. I called it "Destroying Novak's Djokovic." Ha 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 ha. Got anything to say about that, or is that just like the BBC had that down as a big story? He got deported. He wasn't allowed.
It feels odd that because it was at the time, but then we sort of moved on. Everybody sort of like carried on with stuff, and the fact that he wasn't vaccinated suddenly didn't seem to be as important because fewer and fewer restrictions were still in place, and most people had been vaccinated anyway. So it feels like COVID has gone for most of us, even though it's not. It's still
I've got it right
going
now,
on, but you've got it right now, yeah.
Do you know what? Actually, I checked the numbers recently because of having it, and there are still 300 people a day dying of COVID, but we just kind of I think we've mentally learned to live with it, haven't we, in a different way?
Yeah.
Like I remember one of my friends who was really strict, and I've been really strict on it, and I've been quite worried at points, especially in the early stages. But one of my friends who was quite strict and quite worried, I was explaining to her about how we drive, and driving's dangerous. There's an implicit danger in it, but there's a certain number of people every year that die on the roads, but we still get in our cars and drive, and we don't sort of worry ourselves with it. And maybe this is just another thing now, like for whatever, better or worse, however it's happened, maybe it's just another thing that exists that we just have to sort of mentally, is there a psychology there even about?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is though, with driving, there are things that we do to mitigate the risk. We wear seatbelts. We have speed limits. Cars are designed a certain way so that when they impact, they crumple and dispel the force of the impact. There's things that we do, to mitigate that risk. So, your analogy here would be getting vaccinated and social distancing and wearing masks and that. And we've all just sort of stopped doing that now.
This was literally my
now that's going to make it hard for chat to hear you, I have to admit.
That was my mask. That was when I was because I was a carer for my nan, so I used to wear the gas mask when I was out anywhere. There was no way I was picking up COVID and bringing it back to the home with nan, and we couldn't go anywhere. It was lockdown, but I was walking the dog and doing different bits and pieces. I had the gas mask, yeah.
If you were allowed out for your regulation half hour of exit.
Yeah. Yeah. So Novak Djokovic, he faded into obscurity then because the world took over with Putin took over then. Look,
Russia is trying to take the Donbass with overwhelming force.
I'm smiling, I'm cheerful about it. I'm not cheerful
the
about
numbers,
it. It's terrible.
The mass grave.
But I'm like, well, there's the big news story for our first news story of the video. But no, it's fucking horrific, isn't it?
The contempt for life.
Do you know what? I remember this as well. I remember thinking at the time when they were building up to the war and he was moving the troops. I remember saying, and I think I did a video about that as well. I think that was one of my early streams of the year, was a fake war Russia and Ukraine and stuff. I actually thought they were just going to try and sell a load of guns and set up like, you know, a bit of fringe conflict and never really go anywhere with it. But it did turn a bit nasty quite quick, didn't it?
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, I assume the same because this is a thing that's been going on since like 2014. You know, it's been an ongoing conflict around that area. So, like the idea of like an escalation in, you know, him pushing troops like to the borders and things, and then trying to take towns. It felt like it was just another. Oh, he's just like testing international resolve. He's pushing it, you know, and then he full on fucking invaded. And then, like within a month, the International Criminal Court's going, "We're actually going to investigate you for war crimes." It felt like really, really shocking. And I did see one psychologist comment saying that Putin sort of like wants the old Russia back. You know, he wants the USSR-esque Russia back. Russia at that level on a global stage, and he wants that sort of. It feels odd to call it like an empire, but you know, he wants that sort of.
They used to call it the evil empire, didn't they?
Yeah,
the red empire.
It feels odd to call it that. The red, you know, yeah, the red menace and all that, but. It feels like that. It feels like that's what Putin wants, because he's instead at a point where, much like our queen, in a certain way, empire is crumbling. You know, Russia is not as strong militarily and not as strong like economically, not as strong militarily. Not, you know, by like all these different factors, Russia appears to be failing, and so much like how we had more and more nations going, actually we want independence, there's more and more sort of sovereign states cropping up where once used to be the USSR as a whole. So one cycle, I do remember another one saying like it's a bit like how Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il once used to be the USSR as a wait, I'm being duplicated somewhere.
Wait, I just duplicated you a little bit because I wanted to check the sound.
Yeah.
Hang on, yeah.
Like how
you've got an echo on you, haven't you? You've got an echo on you. Hang on, you've got an echo on you, haven't you? There's like two of you.
It's so odd. Like hearing yourself a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah, that's odd. I have to wait, I can see what's happening here. You're coming through both the maybe if I just turn this one off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now you do some talking. You do some talking, you.
Oh, right, me, sorry.
Yeah.
Cat Belly, who was mentioned in
Maybe if I
chat,
just
now
turn this
Russia
one
has no
off.
McDonald's left. And it has reminded me
now
there
you
is
do some
an
talking.
economic measure called the Big Mac scale, which measures like the cost
You
of a Big
do
Mac
some
across.
talking, you.
Oh, right, me,
All
sorry.
the different countries that
Cat Belly, who was mentioned in...
I think that works, yeah?
Throw me
Does
off.
that work now? Sorry, yeah, it will throw you off. I apologise. Does that work better now? Have we lost the...
There wasn't an echo there when I briefly heard it.
Okay, what's happening? Well, let me explain just to everyone, like time out for a second. When I have to... We're broadcasting with a slight delay. So when I'm pressing this button right now, like this, Steve...
When I briefly heard it.
Okay, what's happening? Well, let me explain just to everyone. Yeah, you're hearing us from that seconds ago, and that's what I can hear as a sort of sound check, you know, like a monitor to check that that's what's going out. So when I monitor what's going out, you briefly hear... You never used to hear it before because you couldn't hear what I was hearing. But now you can hear from a few seconds ago. That's what I can hear as a sort of sound check, you know, like and everyone can, yeah? And what's happening in OBS for some reason is, like, while we were talking for that first, like, 5 or 10 minutes, you were coming through twice. And the reason is you were coming through on the channel that I've set up for you, which is your audio channel. That's fine. You're also coming through the desktop audio, essentially. Like when I played this video,
And then
like people can
it's
hear
a
that,
black mesh tank.
but you're also coming through on that channel. So what I've done is I've turned off your own private channel, and now you're going through that one chat. Like essentially, we should now have the correct sound. Steve now sounds normal. It sounds good, right? Yeah, Steve sounds normal.
Oh, God. It sound normal.
So, but what we had before, it was just like, it was almost like a, you were just being played twice. It was like a harmony of yourself. There was two of you, which was just I a slight glitch. I'm not losing my mind about it. I've managed to fix it. But what's strange is that the fix is like the opposite of what we should be doing. Like, we should definitely be hearing you on your own private channel. But as long as that's all good now, I think we should continue. It's thrown me for a wobble because I don't know what why it did that. Okay, that's good though. You know, we're back on. We're okay. You're working. I'm working. I just checked it. They said it was okay. Sorry.
I've just realised this inadvertently looks like my beard because you've got like this part in the middle and then there's like the white bits either side.
I've got the ashtray face. they accuse Phil of. I've got the ashtray face. Yeah.
At least your mustache is like straight and even. Doesn't look like you fucked it up while shaving.
I've been in bed for a week. Yeah, so things are working a bit better now. I think that's okay. I've forgotten exactly.
Oh, I thought you meant in Russia then. I thought we were going back.
I wanted to say a couple of things. Okay, yeah, we'll get back to Russia then, and I'll try and calm myself into it again and not be. I think I've got the wrong energy for the right video piece. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like solemn Russia. But one of the things that I thought as well was that we've seen, like, I've grown up in the world where we had Beirut and we had Afghanistan, and then we've had, like, you know, there's always been a little bit of a war going on the fringes and around there. I think with Ukraine it seems a little different because it looked like closer to home, people you recognise more. To be more blunt about it, you know, white people in a more Western society were the ones that were suffering. But in another way, I saw the fall of Yugoslavia and the Serbs, and you know, I remember when they like murdered all those people. You know, and I just like, it seems like it's always this sort of thing's always going on. So maybe I was less shocked by it, less worried by it in a way. I was a bit surprised with how far he went into the country. I thought it might just stay on the fringes, but.
But it is an odd thing, yeah. There's always been that East versus West thing, hasn't there? There's always been this capitalism, communism sort of thing. Like you said, those have been like, oh, what's the word? Is it proxy wars or proxy conflicts, you know, around those areas?
Yeah, they do, don't they? They
like the two sides are backed by either America or Russia, and they're the ones in conflict, really. There has always been that.
They like always need a place to go and test their ammunitions, and they always need to go, like, you know, there's a reason to have a defence force and all that. But to actually go so far, what I suppose worries everyone now is the question of whether it's going to be nuclear war. But I don't want to worry people like that because I don't think it will be. But then I didn't think they were going to do all this now, like. But it's very unlikely.
What interested me, I mean, because you can read this in. Much like how, you know, you might use a sporting event or, you know, like a national jubilee to distract from more domestic problems at home with the country. You can see this as, in order to distract from things sort of failing in Russia, Putin has gone for like, right, we're going into conflict, we're going into war. War rallies people, you know, conflict rallies
and on our
they
side
engender
as well.
Nationalist feelings. So
Boris Johnson was very like fragile at the time, wasn't he? But he made himself into a strong statesman by just fucking off somewhere else and selling a load of guns. So, like, you know, he was able to stand, you know, proudly with Zelensky and, you know, doing all these photo op wartime, you know, with his hard hat on and all that business.
That he went was odd. I found that very strange that he went to the Ukraine. I thought, you know, he'd do the usual blustering and, you know, we will stand with Ukraine and sending armed support and all that stuff. But the fact that he went to meet him in Ukraine was quite unusual. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting him to just stay at home. So, that was a very interesting one.
Haley in chat says, my friend lives in Lithuania and it's horribly close to everything. Geographically for them, it's as if they're in Edinburgh and London was attacked. God, you know, that would be terrible actually. But if it was the other way around and Edinburgh was getting attacked, it wouldn't be so bad, I suppose. No, just jokes. King Jad will kick my ass.
Unless he's from Glasgow, in which case you might be all right.
Yeah. But I've got a friend who came from Lithuania actually.
No, I've just offended him because I don't know which his accent is.
He moved. He said that he moved from where he originally lived as well. So maybe you know, he's got a foot in both camps now. Who knows? We'll have to get him on maybe one time. But yeah, I see what they're saying there in chat as well. But because I've got friends who live in Poland, and I think like there was a missile that inadvertently dropped over the border of Poland, and they had to squabble about who shot that missile, didn't they? Like, it is getting very dangerously close to the UN essentially has a borderline around it where you can't cross that border, otherwise we all get involved. And it's coming. That's, I suppose, something that makes everyone scared as well. Is that the closer it comes to, all of our neighbours, the more involved we might have to be.
Yeah, and that's a bias that we all have. I mean, there's only so much that the mind could take on. There's only so far you can consider, and there's only so much you can give. So it's you shouldn't feel bad for thinking, it's that far away, we don't have to worry about it. It's because it's distant to us. I mean, it really is. It literally is distant to us, but the chances of it escalating to the point where we're involved, at least, are quite small. And so, that's like a privilege that we have. But, obviously people who are closer to it, it's going to be a much more serious thing.
I'm going to rub my hands now. I'm going to ask a few difficult questions. You don't represent like these people that sold the guns, but I wonder myself as to how involved we are as a nation, because without this how do I put this? Before this, David Cameron was out lobbying, selling different armaments. Was it Saudi Arabia? He sold a load of fighter planes over there. There's this sort of history of the Conservative leaders end up being ambassadors for arms sales in ongoing ways, and this whole conflict sold an awful lot of missiles, and economically for the UK post Brexit, this is one of the trade deals that we did that we are heavily involved in. We've made a lot of money out of this, I suppose. We've trained a lot of soldiers, which again is money for services. We send our soldiers out there, and it's another reason that is given to us at home for things like Trident missiles. We've got our own nuclear weapon. We've got it up there. We were joking earlier. They would attack Edinburgh and not London because or Glasgow, because that's where we keep our
missile defense
giant nuclear missiles. Yeah, and
submarines are up there.
And also, there's a lot of Russians who have got properties in London, and Boris Johnson and his friends have got a lot of Russian friends. So, we are kind of tied up in it in lots of clever ways, aren't we? That we don't get a choice. We don't. I think it's really strange in our world. We can vote on the X Factor, can't we? I can have a vote on that. I can choose what flavour of crisps, Walker's crisps, in the next Walker's crisps. I can vote on which is going to be the cool new flavour of Walker's crisps. But if it's about doesn't have to be the whole elections or anything, just the thing about the nukes or the thing about the war. They don't even I can't press a button and that come up in the House of Commons. 74% of people say no. Do you know what I mean? That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, that's the result of a superstructure, in society. It's a system that's beyond the machinations of most people. It's a decision that gets made at a level beyond most of us. So, I sort of wanted to keep an ostensibly counter for this one.
Yeah, that's your favourite word.
It's because all things being well, you would vote for the party which had the mandate that you agreed with, and ideally part of that mandate would be relating to how you would handle international conflicts in other countries and what your opinions and beliefs are about our defense and how much we spend on that defense, and whether Trident should be maintained, and there'll be lots of things like that. And ideally you want the person who you vote for to stand by that, but at some other point when that person is in power, other interests come into play, and decisions like that get made without the explicit knowledge or consent of most of us. So it's a difficult one to deal with. But I'm going to drop a book recommendation here.
Cool.
It's a book by Mark Thomas, and it's called As Used on the Famous Nelson Mandela, and it's about I think it's Mark Thomas, and it's about arms deals and how easy it is to buy and sell arms in or through this country. It's a really good book. It's quite old. I think it's 2000 and something, early 2000s. But yeah, it's really interesting.
My cat is meowing and meowing and meowing now.
Also, Mark Thomas is a comedian, and he's quite politically active. So
I used to, do you know what? I used to
it might
love
not
Mark
be to everyone's
Thomas.
taste, but
Boosh.
it's still a very interesting read, and it shows you
Does he
just,
still-
like, how massive the industry is.
Hello,
He's
Bob.
still going,
in
yeah.
chat. Is he still? Because I used to love him. He used to be on Channel 4 a lot, didn't he? And he used to like. It was like I remember he had his zenith. I feel he had a weekly episode where he would like do something big against some sort of corporation, like turn up at their offices, you know, doing a big thing. And it was a comedy. He turned it into a stand-up routine at the end, where actually, you know what? Do you know what? This is an example of how I can show you things on the internet. The Mark Thomas comedy, and this will get us copyright strikes up the whammer straight away. But
Okay,
this is what he used to
quickly,
do, isn't it?
Bob Cassidy says that's the greatest book title ever. It's actually based on a quote that one of the arms dealers gives him when they're trying to sell one of their products. Like it's got like a catalogue or like a brochure of all these different sort of like borderline illegal but not quite illegal enough. Well,
Oh my god, I see what you mean now. You mean the weaponry that was being sold as used on Nelson
as
Mandela?
used on the famous
I thought you meant.
Nelson
I
Mandela,
thought
it's like a restraint or something like that, or like a cattle
selling
prod or
handcuffs
like,
or like
yeah, it's something like that, and that's how they sold
And there's
it.
a picture of him next to it, like, you know, this kept me down. Like,
something like that. Yeah. So
this is Mark Thomas. Look,
Their annual budget for advertising, promotion, PR around the globe is $7 billion.
there's him talking about Nestle, and he used to do this thing, didn't he, where he'd then go on and do a whole thing, and he's got VT and like, you know, and he turns it into a like it's politics versus stand-up in a way that works really well. And then there's a payoff at the end where someone from a business looks stupid and he makes them look a bit stupid. Why did he disappear? Where did he go to? Maybe I should try and get him on as a guest. I say this like if you speak it, they might appear. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
You never
Mark
know.
Thomas is
Somebody
cool.
chat might like have connections.
Well, we're going to talk about the Queen later, so she's got the
Are
most
we
connections
moving
out
on?
of all of us. No, I just pressed the different buttons by mistake. So moving on from Ukraine to something you can vote on. Look, according to the BBC, is
Ukraine has won the Eurovision Song Contest.
That's big news. It was big enough to get 3 seconds in their 70 seconds thing. So
Well, I think like the fact that it was held in the Ukraine. Oh no, next year's going to be held in the Ukraine.
no, they're bloody not,
Russia
because it's
competed,
fucking been destroyed,
didn't
mate. They're not holding
Russia
them in the
were not,
Ukraine. We're holding them. Listen, they're not. Honestly, they're not holding them in the Ukraine. I think that's right, isn't it? You tell me in chat. Ukraine got given the win for Eurovision. I say given the win. I say, do you think
Ukraine
it was
got the win? Ukraine won the Eurovision.
It's a vote, isn't it? They all vote for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I think
Well, even there, we've only really got like a vague illusion of choice because there's still like a panel of people that decides the top scores.
yeah,
It's only partially a phone vote now, and it's like that.
Oh, is it not even a full fight? Oh,
stripping of democracy. That
I tell you,
for years, the Eurovision Song Contest has been phone votes. The public speaks. You know, it's a demonstration of cross-cultural attitudes across Europe, and the people are the ones that choose. And now there's like who are these unelected bureaucrats?
This is one of my favourite YouTubers.
And it's usually
actually.
like Davina McCall or someone hosting it. Hi, Graham.
This is one of my favourite YouTubers of the last few years. Is Maxi? It's just totally random. Is it Maxi Rainbow? Maxi Rainbow Escape. Here, Maxi Rainbow. They do YouTube review. YouTube review.
Yeah, that's a point, Bob.
So-
Sam Ryder, we did like an amazingly good job compared to like previous Eurovision performance. That was incredible. So you know, fair play to him. But
This is somebody that reviews YouTube. Reviews.
I got actually, yeah, that reminds me.
Reviews Eurovision on YouTube, so that's backing us now. I wanted to say though quickly before we get that one out that I feel it was a bit of a fix that they gave it to the Ukraine, but then we got to host the competition after. So like it's like a bit of a again it's like
because we have to pay. Yeah.
Like we're getting the benefit as well, aren't we? You know, it's all a bit. I think there's a few backhanders going on with that. I don't think I think it's all a bit of a fix. Yeah, you go.
Wait, let me find it because I got an amazing message from my dad. Me dad loves Eurovision,
Right.
and so I get messages from him when it's on. So let me just quickly skip to.
I wanted to see who's doing it in 2023. It's in Liverpool. It's going to be in Liverpool. Yeah.
Is it in Liverpool? Right.
Yeah. So we get it's the Ukraine winning and it's the Ukraine like celebration, but in Liverpool. So it's like a sort of, again, it's like we're in this together thing. Like it's good that we're in it together with the Ukraine. Don't get me wrong. I think but sad for all the refugees and get them over here and give them a good chance and but I feel like we sold them a lot of guns and then like we won the Eurovision. Like I think it's all a bit.
I got a message from my dad saying, if it wasn't for Russia... Oh, actually, no, I better not. If it wasn't for Russia, we'd have won Eurovision.
Well, there is that, isn't it? They got the win. I feel like we both win, in a way. I feel like there was no... I felt like they couldn't really... Could you imagine, though, if Spain had just come out with a belter? Would it have been, do you think it would have been like sort of bad taste? Do you think everyone thought, oh, hang on, war in Ukraine, let's tone down our Eurovision entry so that they win? Or do you think that could you imagine if they come out with the right belter, Spain? Like Spain just hired, I don't know, like Kanye West and for all that he's going to come up a bit later, he can write a good tune. They really belt it out.
Oh my God, it's not even on my list.
Kanye West, he's got to come up. He's always relevant. That was the Eurovision. Question in chat.
Can you imagine? Right, okay, right. Oh wait, go on.
Yeah, well, if you've got something to say it now. Forever hold your peace, because I'll move on to the question in chat. The question in chat is always there. I can always go back to it.
Can you imagine, right, being the country that beats the Ukraine? Can you imagine if we'd come first and not second?
Yeah, exactly.
We would have our win tainted.
Yeah, no, we'd have had to hand it over. We'd have had. You wouldn't have been able to. You'd have had to get them on stage. You'd have had to get them on stage and be like, "Come on, it's your win too." Like, yeah. No, we would have looked like right bastards.
Come on.
I think that's what really happened. I think really they looked at the scores at the end and said, "UK have done too well here. Give it to the Ukraine."
Fuck them.
Give it to the Ukraine.
UK, you've done too well. Fuck them.
Yeah. They'll deal with it.
Payback for Brexit, you fuckers.
Exactly. I don't think that we could have won after Brexit. I think that would have been just beyond the pale. The question in chat: how do you guys view the monarchy from childhood compared to now? We will get onto the notable death of the Queen, and we will specifically talk about the monarchy. So if we can save it till then, I think
probably going to blather on for a bit, aren't we?
Because we're going to talk about
probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. So we're going to move. It will come up probably. We're going to talk about all sorts of other things that have happened in the year as well, right? Hang on. I've got so many windows. I've got Maxi going on about the Eurovision. That can go now. That's irrelevant now, basically. That's the old news. What else happened?
Johnny Depp has won his
Johnny Depp won his libel
case.
case. My dog stepped on a bee. Let's have that. My dog stepped on a bee. Let's have that.
Having a good time, like normal. And, it just went away. That just
I'm opening a pack of peas.
got fixed. We walked out of the trailer at some point. My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet. Went on with our, vacation. We actually went to another location after that, and then eventually.
Yeah, that's all we needed to hear, though, Amber, isn't it? That your dog stepped on a bee.
Dog stepped on a bee.
There's the face. Oh, it's famous. So, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Do you remember the trial kicking off? What were your thoughts?
Right as I'm about to eat.
Do you want me to go? I can go.
Yeah, you lead us in. On this one. You've covered this more than I have.
So I didn't do it on stream. It was we're going to later on. We're going to bring up our respective channels and have a quick look through our videos. And I'm just going to sort of say, oh, this happened at this time of the year, and look what we were talking about. But I didn't do it on stream because when it was a trial, I felt like it's domestic violence either way, like at some point here, and I don't know who's going to win the trial. So let's say that I do it as a stream and I've got all people having opinions and we're all talking about it, and it turns out that it was this or that. Then I've just made a load of content about someone's domestic violence. And without really knowing, I thought I'd wait till the judgment happened before I'd even made any content about it. I didn't really make any, I talked about it in some streams, but for the same reasons, I was really interested in the process and I had my feelings, and I was a bit trying to use the body language and, read into the things, trying to imagine if I was a juror, what I would think. But ultimately, I was waiting for the result to sort of tell me not what I should think, but I respect the process, and I didn't want to. I reserved judgment until they made the judgment, I think. So ultimately, I think it was probably most of it came out as the things that came out we all got to hear sort of the truth, in inverted commas, at some point, you know, with the edges cleaned off here and there maybe. And I think the end result was probably correct. And Amber Heard came out like a right shit, didn't she? And it was a bit of a strange moment it was at the tail end of this Me Too thing where I think she probably felt that she could level accusations against a powerful man and be backed by the court of public opinion, and that would end him. But instead it went a different way. Yeah, how do you feel?
Do you feel like there was an air of cynicism to it then? Because that's sort of like the perspective that you've taken, that was like a motivator for it. Not necessarily the primary one, but that element is there. Or do you feel like do you feel like it's really there? Because I admit I don't know much about the case. I found it really...
Have you ever done loads of cocaine, Steve?
No.
No, yeah, well, I have. No, but I've done a little bit, not fucking loads and loads, but like, I've seen people, I'll tell you what, I've seen some people who've done an awful lot too much, and I've seen some pretty bad chuffers who are like completely lost in it, and it does make you do some weird shit. And like, one of the things that came out through this, I know Johnny was using it sometimes, but I think Johnny's had a longer life and used different narcotics over his life and come to terms with them a bit more, and so maybe sometimes parties hard and sometimes chills out. But I think Amber's in a phase where she's using cocaine. This is just a speculation on the internet, but it's not just speculation because it's all been pointed out in court. She's using coke. She said she didn't use cocaine but took all these other... She's using cocaine a lot, and like, it makes you into a right chuffer, and like a greedy chuffer, and a like paranoid, like manic chuffer. And like a lot of these episodes and this violence, this episodic violence and these arguments, like I think to myself, if you remove the drugs, maybe these attitudes and flare-ups and all this don't happen. And then if you're Amber Heard, I think you're at a point where you want to walk away from the relationship and you want to take everything you can, but you're not married and you don't have a, like, you know, there's no divorce or settlement or anything. In fact, if you walk away, you're just going to walk away with less than you even started with, because you're relying on him now. So now you have to leave his house, and you have to leave, you know, you want this house, you want this stuff, and you're coked off your nut, and you've come up with some sort of, you know, slightly loopy plan. I don't know what it says about her past and how she behaved, you know, if that's a plausible, you know, setup. I don't know if, like, you know, she's always been a bit manipulative, but yeah, that's how I feel about her. I think that at first she was in there just having fun riding the party train, but sometimes the party train goes dark and then you're sitting there with your like Hollywood yes people and a big bag full of that powder and making weird decisions.
Well, I feel like a lot of the coverage that I saw was focused on her and like trying to overanalyze everything, like every wink, every nod, every blink, every sniff, every scratch or itch, every word got analyzed, you know, and it felt like almost... I felt ghoulish personally. It felt like, again, these things to me, they feel like they're not necessarily as a forensic psychologist, but as a person, like my relationship with the justice system is that these things should be taken seriously, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's like an air of media coverage and a tone of media coverage that is acceptable, and then there's stuff that isn't, and I felt like a lot of it wasn't. I mean, especially on YouTube, very, very popular making videos about her on YouTube.
Yeah, it was the Wild West, and I'll tell you something as well. What was that? Was something in chat?
No, then it was the Wild West. It was a nice reference.
All right, yeah. And I'll tell you something, because I watch a lot of Asmongold, and what I noticed was like
exactly who I was thinking of.
Asmongold
exactly who I was thinking of Asmongold.
Like, he perfectly represented this idea as well, though, is that the world is going to consume this. Today, it's live on the internet. They're going to be watching it. So, am I streaming World of Warcraft, or am I streaming this because that's what everyone's watching? So, Asmongold was like beholden, like the rest of the media. Like, he represented. It's so interesting to me because he's the most independent person I can think of who does his own thing the way he wants to do it. But I know he was interested, but it was almost as if he was like saying, "Look, that's what we're watching today. That's what everyone's watching. And if I don't watch it, then I'm going to have a very small World of Warcraft stream while everyone else watches that. And even I want to watch it." So like, it was like everyone just pointed their attention to it. And that led to this, like I say, this Wild West thing of like, everyone's got an opinion now, haven't they then? And people have got sides, and, you know, you've got I think it was very hard to. After a certain point, it was very hard to defend Amber online, and there weren't so many people doing that. So it became a bit of a dog pile in ripping her apart, I suppose, as well, didn't it? But yeah, she did come across very manipulative.
It's one of those situations where it's difficult to accept, but unfortunately, both parties can be shits, but just shits in very different ways, you know. And it can be that both parties are toxic towards each other. Both parties, like you said, if you take away the drugs, especially, but in this case, it could just be that, you know, she came out the shitter, as it were.
There were there were some notable moments, weren't there, that like I kind of, maybe it's because I'm a bit older and a man, and like not being sexist or patriarchal, but I could understand sometimes where she would, like, her complaint was that he would go to his studio and play his guitar and get like on the drugs with his mates, and like you kind of think the balance in the relationship was he just didn't give a shit about listening to her going on, and he wanted to go and hide in the studio. And then the flip side seemed to be like a bit more like strange and aggressive from her. Like there was the thing with the bed, like the poop in the bed. Which apparently the dog did. There was all this like there was the cut fingers, weren't there? There was the you know, the smashing of things. Johnny was filmed doing some slamming of some cupboards, but I think I slammed the door today, the mood I'm in. Like I felt less like I was worried about him and his unpredictable behaviour, and I felt very confused. But what I'm trying to say is I could, and even if I didn't agree that he was always behaving the right way, I could sort of see why and how, and, you know, logically follow it through. But with her, I found it much more difficult to logically follow it through if she were just to be a naive, innocent party. Yeah.
Okay, so most of the coverage that I saw sort of breaking down her behavior and her personality seemed to conclude that, you know, she's manipulative, but she also might be borderline. And borderline personality disorder is defined by emotional instability, and especially in relationships, you can go from, you know, this person is the love of my life to this person is going to leave me any minute now, like very, very quickly. So it causes like massive instability, and it causes major problems within relationships.
It causes major problems. I've got a tattoo on the back half of me here.
Oh my God.
Right, that's a girl's name, and the reason I got that is because the girl I was going out with was all like, "Oh, you're gonna leave me?" And I was like, "Oh, no, for God's sake!" Right, so I got a tattoo to just prove it, and then she dumped me. So,
triggering a flashback, yeah.
Just to prove that I wasn't going anywhere, I got a tattoo, and then she dumped me. Yeah. So, yeah.
But you know, I'm speaking both professionally and personally here, so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of like seems the conclusion, and it's like, if he's, you know, more content to just be like, right, I'm getting off my tits and going and playing guitar, I'm fucking Johnny Depp, I can do whatever I want, you know.
Yeah.
And she's got the emotional instability of, oh, you're gonna fucking leave me, and you know, I have to be like majorly over dramatic, and everything's a massive issue, and you know, it's like at some point just end the fucking relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a difficult one. Because it's also, like you said, it was coming off the end of Me Too movement, and this is like an issue where you do want to believe women, and
yeah, that's a good point.
A great point in chat. It does a lot of damage for real women trying to get out of real abusive relationships.
I mean, I do
know, like we men can sit here and talk about that all day, but
yeah, that's true. Actually,
it's not a reality that we will face to the same extent. We are.
I'd like to get
inherently going to sort of like bias more towards Johnny Depp, because we're going to put ourselves in his position and think, oh God, what about if I do meet somebody who's
true,
abusive or emotionally stable, and then says something about me? You know, there's a fear there, but that's nowhere near the same fear as, oh God, this man might actually batter me to death. So, you know, I always feel very uncomfortable talking about it. It's they're very, very difficult lectures in forensic psychology when you're talking about intimate partner violence and stuff like this. It's not an easy thing to ever really, you know, get through.
Do you know what, actually? I think because it was Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, in a way, when we're picturing these scenes, maybe because they're movie stars and we're picturing scenes, like, and it seems dramatic and, you know, it's part of a narrative, maybe it took that grisly reality and distanced it a bit so that it allowed the people on the internet, everyone viewing it, to sort of focus more on them and their personalities as protagonist and antagonist rather than the horrors of the actual like actions that were being described.
And especially with like the way, sorry to interrupt there.
No, go on.
Like the way that the internet does, they run with something and make it almost mimetic, because you're talking about like the horrors of domestic abuse, and then the internet's going, oh, she's shit in the bed. Yeah. You know, and that becomes the thing. So it does sort of distance us from the really difficult realities of being in that sort of situation, that sort of relationship. And it also allows us to sort of look at it and sort of analyze it in a way that's, again, it's distanced, it's separate. It's not us. It's not anyone we know. It's not anyone we will personally consider to be vulnerable or in a domestically abusive relationship. You would get to sort of like have these two fictional figures of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, and you can move the dolls around and put them in different rooms and play with them as you will. So it's really a way to project your own sort of like ideas and biases on, because you have this canvas of two movie stars, so you can already put them in roles because you're used to not seeing them as the individual. You're used to seeing them as the role they're playing. So
and I think this was a really clever part of Johnny Depp's I suppose it's his defense, is that they were able to, how do I explain this, the lawyers were able to use that exact sort of mechanic to present an image of Johnny Depp that may not be exact, like he sort of played a version of himself when he was on the stand, and he's already out there in people's minds as Jack Sparrow, and this sort of, you know, like the drug use is a great example. You know, all the rum and it becomes like a jolly alcoholic rather than a seedy, nasty alcoholic. You know, they were able to sort of take the edge off some of the edgier actions. And Johnny Depp himself on the stand, you know, laughing and joking about taking drugs with Marilyn Manson and stuff like that. And you know, they were able, at the time Marilyn Manson hadn't been accused of all that stuff in the same way, had he? I don't remember. Anyway, the point is that I think they were able to do that. The defense themselves were able to use that film star image in people's minds to manipulate. So maybe I don't even know the truth. Yeah,
I think there's only really two people that do know the truth, and you know, they've had their day in court. Yeah, so.
And she's pledged that she'll probably pledged to pay all the money back. So,
in the US, millions of women.
Here's one that we can't. This is one that this one, going back to what you were just saying about women and needing to be heard and stuff as well. I think sometimes, and we're two men, you're right, and I'd like to get more women on the show this year and have, you know, more wider voices. With this one in America, what I couldn't get my head around was that there was a debate about. Well, there wasn't much of a debate. It was there. They made some decisions about abortion, and I found it so strange that it's like loads and loads of men making these decisions. And for me, even to have a comment, like one of my mates asked me about this before. My opinion on this is: don't ask me. I'm a man. Go and ask a load of women and find out what they think, and I'll go with what they think, because, like, you know, I'm not likely to have an abortion in the next like 10 to 20 years, am I? So I'm quite happy to sort of absolve responsibility over to people who know more about it than me. But if you want to talk about Way versus Road, the BBC have put it up there in their 70 seconds of the year. Have you got an opinion? I'm not going to venture one. I just think people should make their own choices, let them choose. Yeah.
I am pro-choice by default, because I don't think it's any of my duty or responsibility or right to tell a woman what she can do with her body.
Yeah, so we're both on the same page there then.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's her choice to make, and if she's pregnant and doesn't want to abort it, fine. She's more power to her for keeping it. If she's pregnant and she does want to abort it, fine. It's her choice. There are lots of reasons that people might not want to get pregnant, and those are all valid choices as far as I'm concerned. Your body, you do what you want with it.
It's one of these things where you could talk about these things, right, in terms of generalities, but the truth is each case is an individual case, so none of the generalities matter to an individual making their own decisions. So it's irrelevant what, you know, whether someone's, oh, what about this, or hypothetically that. No, like individually people are having to make decisions on the day-to-day basis on the ground. So like my hypothetical this or that doesn't really come into it, I think. So next story, right, is the Japanese. And we're going to move on through the BBC ones probably more quickly than we're going to come on to some of the cooler ones quicker, because I want to get through. I don't know why the BBC have not done Elon Musk yet, but we've got Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's been shot dead.
Well, it's not happened by this point in the year.
All right, it's not happened.
It happens later, doesn't it?
This is only 30 seconds into this. I don't know. They've only got 70 seconds to show me the whole year. So, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot dead. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sure he's a nice chap. I don't know anything about it. I'm just going to move on. Yeah.
It's shocking. It's one of those things where you don't expect that to happen. It's the assassination of a political figure. Those are
it was
rare
surprising.
things in societies, especially in Japan. You know, most societies don't.
Surprising to me, but like I don't know what. I didn't know if there was like a undercurrent of anger in Japan, or like if they'd got. I don't know what was going on. Like, so it was surprising, but I absolutely know nothing about it. So yeah. I'm happy to move on from that because I've got nothing to say about it.
I don't really have much to say either. But
there were floods in India and Pakistan. I do actually, just quickly going on my channel here, I did I'm sure I did, we did Microsoft Flight Simulator at this time of the year, and I flew over the flooded Assam Valley on a stream. So Microsoft Flight Simulator wasn't flooded, but we did a stream where I flew over it and showed everyone all the places, and then showed them what the flooding was like on the news. Oh, there's the Queen again. Showed them the flooding on the news, and we did some money for charity for that. So on our little stream on Ganjikidd here on the Super Chuffer channel, like we helped some of these people. I not those people specifically, like they're in trouble in the water there, but we gave them some money. So I remember that happened. And then the big one, right?
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. The big one. Do you want to go first? Tell me your feelings on royalty.
I think you should let Hugh Edwards do it.
Do you want him to speak his actual words on? Like, he's going to be a little bit cut off the side of the screen then.
Has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
That was it.
There you go.
That was it. Even for the BBC, 70 seconds, mate. Quick edit.
Yeah. You'd think they'd linger a bit, but
you think they would. I'll get some backing pictures, and you can tell me about your feelings about the Queen.
All right. Well, first things first. Where were you when it happened? What were you doing? This is like a 9/11 thing now. Where were you?
I smoked too much weed, mate. So I can't remember what the fuck I was doing. What are you on about?
I can remember where I was.
You can remember where you were. Oh no, I can now. Yeah, you go, and I'll tell you afterwards. Yeah.
All right, mine is really, really sad because I knew that I thought it was coming because obviously they sort of called everyone to Balmoral. So you're like, oh, this is serious, and then the BBC started.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Really
Yes, yeah.
But, recently, I'd bought a really swish-looking hourglass. I didn't know how long it was, so I thought I'm going to time it. I've got fuck all else to do. I'm going to go and time it. And as I turned it over and started my stopwatch, I thought, please don't let this be the thing I do when she's dying. And then after about 5 minutes, Buckingham Palace isn't it? And I was like, for fuck's sake.
So as those sands pass through the hourglass,
timing an hourglass.
Wait, this is it makes me feel a bit like Steve of the Dead. Like basically, you know, have you ever read Terry Pratchett?
I had a book, I had a scythe, and that.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever read? You're watching the hourglass tick by. Queen Elizabeth, you're dead. Yeah, I see what you're trying to tell me here. I'm a bit worried about our position now. This podcast might go on forever. So the Queen died. It was sad. I remember as well. Now you reminded me. We'd gone on a little holiday because it was my friend's birthday, and we'd gone to Newquay basically, and we got a little Airbnb. And so we'd walk the dog on the beach. It was on the news, like you said. People were like, "Oh, she's going to die," and they were worried. But the general vibe was, I think it was the last day of our holiday down there. We'd just gone to a little Airbnb for a couple of days by the beach, and I think we walked the dog on the beach. And as we got back, they'd said she'd died. So we were on the beach when she died, walking the dog. So I do remember it being on. It was like a specific space. If I had not been there, maybe if I'd just been at home, I'd have I wouldn't remember what I'd been doing, but yeah. And then it was massive, wasn't it? After that, it wasn't just like the Queen died. Okay, let's change the channel.
Yeah, it was. There's really no words to describe how massive it was. It's one of those rare few events where it feels like the whole world stopped. At least in the UK, everything stopped. That was it. It was.
I'm looking to see where my streams
a
were.
Very odd air in the country. It was.
I wore a suit on stream for like 2 weeks. Well, because I couldn't. I'll tell you what. This sounds really stupid, but I was broadcasting, and I felt like I can't find it on the streams now. I wore a suit on the streams because I was broadcasting. I wore that's what all the broadcasters do, isn't it? They wear a black tie and a blazer and. So I thought I'm just going to do the respect here. The Queen died, and I'm going to wear a suit on my. I can't find it. No, there it is. Look, Queen dead. I even named because I was. These are my streams.
Begins.
These are my streams of Genshin Impact. I'll show them on a big picture there. This one, Queen dead. So let's mute that, and I'll take it off the big screen, back in the little screen. So I'm wearing
I'm sure that's the tribute she would have wanted.
Queen dead. That's the name of the stream. You got to make it impact. And there I am. I've like you can't see me that well unless I'll do it big screen one more quick time. Just so I'm wearing I'm smart, dressed all smart because the Queen dead. So yeah, I paid the respect. The question in chat. The question in chat from earlier that I will definitely take now is that when I was growing up in the UK, although now I've thrown off some of the ideas and traditions and silly things that just get drummed into you, like nationalism and forms of identity and stuff. I've sort of thrown a lot of them off, but when I was young, it was clearly an important part of being British and what they teach you about loving the Queen, loving the Commonwealth. She was seen as a very benevolent, wonderful, sharing, kind person, and I was a Cub Scout, so I promised to do my duty to God and to the Queen and to keep the Cub Scout law. So a lot of the ethics and morals and a lot of what is good in the concept of Britishness was embodied by the Queen. This is why on my stream here I was going on. She drove trucks in the war. She drove like ambulances, and maybe it was just a photo op.
She went the whole guard.
But yeah, she was really there doing it, wasn't she? She people might be able to say, oh well, she wasn't on the front line and maybe she got a photo, but she was, in my opinion, a good person and a good role model. So I was proud to have her as a national figurehead. All ideas about politics and funding and obviously I'm not an elitist. I feel negatively about elitism, and so I didn't see the Queen as someone who, she got all the big house and a lovely dress, but I saw her as an everywoman who talked to anybody, who visited old people's homes as well as hospitals and stuff like that. So I was very much like a proud, I suppose you'd call it a royalist, but not in the concept of monarchy, but just in the concept of the Queen herself. So that's definitely how I felt growing up, and it was sad to see her die. It was like she's always been there, like your proverbial grandmother. Like she's like the nation's grandmother in a way. To
that
our
was
generation.
A phrase I saw a lot. Yeah, that was a phrase that seemed very apt. There's a thing that I don't think a lot of. I mean, if you're in a different country, you're probably not going to really fully appreciate this. Like, especially if you're like America or Canada or or Australia or basically if you're in one of our former colonies. Like we've got a lot of history in this country. You're taught a lot of it goes back thousands of years. We go back to the Romans and the Celts, and from all that to the present day is monarchy. And the fact that it's even in its sort of like devolved state where it doesn't really have that much social or legal or political power anymore, the sort of like consistency of the institution and the sort of like intertwining of it with British and especially English national identity. It's something that even I'm not raised a monarchist. I'm like you, generally sort of opposed to the idea of elitism, but like
down with that.
Regardless of what, careful now. Regardless of my feelings about the institution of it, she as a person held that post and that role because she wasn't supposed to have that role. Remember, it was supposed to be her. It would have been her cousin, wouldn't it? It was her uncle, was Edward, and then he stepped down. And then
he abdicated. Yeah,
George.
Yeah,
and then George died, and she took over. So she was never originally supposed to be. Because it was supposed to be Edward and then his children. Yeah,
people forget that she was like a young debutante. Like, if you go back in time and imagine it, she would have been like a sort of, I don't want to say Meghan Markle, but like, a young, glamorous, socialite princess.
She'd have been like Beatrice, wouldn't she?
Without obligations upon her. Yeah. So all of a sudden,
her
like life had to change.
Princess Margaret, basically. She would have been...
No, I'm even thinking like nowadays, like you don't want to fuck. Excuse me, you don't want to fuck Princess Margaret or Princess Anne, but everyone would have wanted to fuck the Queen. Like she'd have been a young, like glamorous, good looker, out on the party scene. I'm almost thinking like.
Would you have done Fergie?
A Kardashian? No, probably not. No. Depends how much for the money.
Fergie was quite wild.
But you don't want Andrew and the MI5 coming to shoot you, do you? So no.
No sweat.
I'd have only done Die. Like Lady Di, maybe like Lady Di. She would have been in a position where she was in these social circles. She was seeming very glamorous and pretty, and men would have flocked around her. And like she wasn't like some dullard. Like, and then she had to give up all that. Which at the time would have been like the sort of, what young people aspire to on Instagram today. She'd have had it all, so to speak. And then like she was able to just sort of say, no, fuck it then, I'll and that was really touching, wasn't it, when they went over it about her life of service and when she dedicated herself. I think another thing that was really important that we have now lost is that she represented this generation that went through the war. And it was like, well, actually, going back now to Ukraine, I was very flippant at the start. I was thinking about all my settings and stuff like that. But now it's about us and the Queen. But I can now empathise a lot more with the Ukrainians here and understand that, there was this war and people died and things were threatened. And she led us through a time of turmoil. So therefore, afterwards, it wasn't just about stability. It was about healing and moving forward in, other world leaders may not have done such a good job as she did, and she represented again everything that was good about Britain through that. And so now we've lost that. We've lost that generation as well of people who were first-hand close to that conflict, like the Second World War. It's kind of like a end of an era history marker, isn't it?
I think she also sort of like represents the last great sort of public attitude towards the monarchy, because for most of her reign, she was seen very positively. Like there was some initial, like, oh, you can't have a woman as queen and all this. Oh, she's going to do this, and there's some initial resistance at the start, and then it's mainly decades of like, yeah, we love the queen, she's great.
Yeah,
and then obviously towards like the late 80s, the early 90s, the 2000s, and so on, sort of a bit more Republican further starts to grow, and people
you have the Princess
Di why problem. Do we need a monarchy? And
you have the princess, and you've also got the newspapers, and you've got like this compound thing of the Princess Di problem, and the newspapers become like an antagonistic. The royals don't understand how to use the modern media, how to present. Like they didn't have a PR team or these proper facilities until things went bad with Di. And after Lady Diana, they started to realise that their public perception was being controlled by other people. And so they needed to present a sort of public face in a different way, I suppose.
But they had that realization a while before, because they obviously
you're right,
had
they made
Charles and Di
stuff,
divorcing. They had Andrew and Fergie and stuff with that. So there was a couple of like, I'm sure it was Anne divorced as well. But basically, you have these periods in the late 80s and early 90s where they reassess their relationship with the press, but it's not really brought into like sharp focus how important it is until Di dies. And they have that period where they're up in Balmoral with the princes and they don't come down. And there's just no communication between them up there, the palace in London, and the media. So that sort of relationship is really strained by that, and that's the bit where the British public sort of has its say. It makes its feelings towards the monarchy heard. But even after that period, when she comes out and says, look, I am the grandmother of these children, I'm keeping them away from the press and all of this so that they can grieve the loss of their mother up in Scotland, so it comes out that no, they're not being flippant, they're not ignoring it, they're trying to take care of the kids. And so again, people's approval of the monarchy and her in general sort of bounces back up again.
Yeah.
And it sort of remains consistent, even regardless of people going, oh, how do we, kids are starving and we're paying for the monarchy and all that stuff. Even during these periods of not necessarily dissent, but some people are sort of raising critical voices and sort of really questioning the role of the monarchy in modern British society. She still feels like the nation's grandma.
Yeah.
Because she's just been there throughout so many generations of British people, and because of the institution and her as a person, so like innately tied to this idea of Britishness. It does feel like a part of national identity has gone when she's. I mean, it's weird to think there are so few people alive that can remember a period before her being queen. You have to have been born before 1950, isn't it? Until you get to her being queen. Anyone born before that might have memories of life before it, but
the generation
for most of us. For most of the British
now
population,
yeah,
she's the queen. So she's part of Britain. She's part of England. She's part of Wales and Scotland. She's on the money. She's on the money still. So
yeah, it was a big part of the year, wasn't it? And I think what was extraordinary is, despite there being I don't need to now have a debate about the facility of the monarchy or anything, but I think for 50p, I think it's works out about 50p each or something that we give in taxes a year. I'd rather give £1 each and have 2 monarchies and have somebody else have another nice house. I'd take have a monarchy lottery. And I tell you what, I've got 2 ideas that I think I'd just love to see. Is everyone gets a chance to go and maybe not everyone, but pick say an NHS nurse. Just one NHS nurse every month just gets to live at Buckingham Palace and have a great time and meet the Queen, and just once a month just pick somebody else, and just go around people. That would be nice.
Meet the King.
Meet the King. Yeah, that's true. Meet the King.
It's weird, isn't it? I still do it as well sometimes. I still slip up and say, the Queen, and it's just
she's not there. Yeah. I think that the monarchy could do a bit more, giving back in that way. But ultimately, I think, whatever it is, its institution has gone on for this amount of time. Even if it's more like a bauble on a Christmas tree than a functional, important, institution. Even if it remains more of a decoration on our nation, I think I'm still prepared to pay for it in that small way. But I know there's a good argument as well in terms of the anti-elite. It sets a funny standard, doesn't it? That some people are born into situations where they're very lucky and other people aren't. So it does set a strange, double standard that I probably, if we were to argue about my ethics and politics, I'd probably have to say, well, no, I don't want the Queen then, but or the King, or any of them. But yeah, and we could get on to the rest of them, but maybe we should talk about Charles briefly, actually, if this is part of the story, and how we feel about our new king. And then I don't really want to talk about these other chuffers because fuck them. But.
Okay, so my thinking with Charles is that the Queen represented the last great peak of social approval of the monarchy. I think Charles is not going to relate to people, and people aren't going to relate to Charles as much as they did the Queen. He's not going to feel like the nation's grandpa, he's not going to fill that role the same way that she did. So I think more and more nowadays people are going to find themselves distanced from the idea of a monarchy, and it's going to embody less and less Britishness and what Britishness is in the way that the Queen did it. That she's going to be the last great
do you know what?
For as long as Charles rules, I don't know whether he would stay in. I think he might abdicate at some point.
That's what I thought.
10 or 15 years.
I did think, it might be a good opportunity to handle. It seems like Charles also, in a quiet way, has always been there, and to me has filled this role of regalhood, like the regal position, quietly quite well. And the difference is for me is that he seems again like almost like a grandfather figure now. He's like quite old. Like his children have got children, and they're in that Netflix generation. And he seems like I can't. This sounds kind of stupid to say, but like a David Attenborough. Like a last generation.
That's fair. He has. He is passionate about like nature.
Yeah, so like, he's got his benevolent, but
yeah,
also what I mean is like in a way of being like last generation out of touch, can no longer like David Attenborough's a wonderful person and like I love all his work. But if you're going to make a nature documentary now that's going to speak to the modern generation, like Attenborough's the last, like you're now on the Netflix generation, aren't you? And like the people that are more widely popular, even if they're not popular, they're popularly known, that next generation. I thought that an abdication might make sense for that reason, but for the same reason, it keeps Charles out of all that stuff. He's not going to do a Netflix special. He's not. Yeah. He's the damn king. Like whereas these others in the next generations are, I suppose. I don't know much
William
about
and
it.
Kate,
Whatever,
you
mean? Yeah, William and Kate, and I suppose it's Meghan and Harry that are kicking up all that Netflix stuff, isn't it? But do you know what I mean? It feels like they're almost culturally segregated by the media that they are conveyed through. Maybe is that making sense? Like Charles is a newspaper generation and a television generation, and the next generation of the internet generation.
Yeah. There's like a generational disconnect. Like for me, he feels like if we're going with the family relative sort of motif here, he feels like a great uncle that you see like once a year at Christmas. Like he's a distant relative rather than like the closeness of a maternal or paternal grandparent. So it also doesn't help that there are David Attenborough documentaries on Netflix. But I get your point. And that's what I think is going to sort of like really damage the public perception of the monarchy as an institution, is that he has that disconnect. Whereas William and Kate are a bit more human.
Yeah,
it's
a strange
you feel
one,
like you can relate to them.
Like I like in a way like Attenborough and think like I think old BBC, and I actually personally think of that as like a positive, but I also see people might not see it as a positive. Like you're saying, it might be like in some ways that distance, whilst I'm not close to him as a person and feel like hugging him because he's a grandfather figure, it's got a bit of nobility of the monarchy and a bit of mystique of the monarchy, and he still feels legitimately a king. Whereas like the more messing about you do on Netflix and like that other stuff, the less you seem in that upper echelon. Maybe I think that William is he's having to do a distancing act for that same reason, isn't he? He's having to sort of be more regal, be more focused, and less media blabby.
Which is very unfortunate, because you sort of need that now, especially if you want the institution and its relation to society to survive and grow, because it's going to plummet. More and more people are going to grow up now without the Queen, so they're not going to necessarily have the same sort of cultural attachment to that institution that we have. And you want somebody to keep that relevant, and ideally that would be William and Kate.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they grow into the roles, won't it? That'll be interesting. Yeah. Right, next one on the internet this year was in Iran. They had a revolution. I don't know. I didn't know that. I haven't got anything on that. And then all of a sudden, Boris Johnson's gone. Right. So, do you want to? The BBC are moving through, and then I think we're okay sticking to this, aren't we? And then we can throw in our side branches. Anachronistically later, but go on then. Like, I'm sure you've got some thoughts about this. Mr. Porridge Johnson, having been out to the Ukraine, looking all statesman-like, Mr. Porridge Johnson and his £10,000 curtains and his jolly wife decided to leave the job. What's going on here?
Well, I for one am glad the British public decided not to vote for chaos with Ed Miliband.
That's quite a niche, like, you have to know what we're talking about there. But chaos. Ed Miliband famously couldn't be our prime minister because he ate a bacon sandwich in a slightly less than
aesthetically pleasing way.
Yeah, he just his bacon sandwich wrong. So that was his great downfall as a politician.
It still blows my mind to this day that he, looking slightly odd while eating a bacon butty cost this man an election. It is mental.
I'll tell you what, actually, with Boris Johnson is a great example of this, is that what the Conservatives have in their favour is they've got a lot of money. And if you put Saatchi and Saatchi in charge of your campaign, and instead you're the Labour Party and you go with ethics and ideas, like, you're fucked. You're going to lose to Saatchi and Saatchi. Like, they're going to put ideas in people's heads a lot better, and like, you need the most. It's kind of like that moment of the loss because of the like being. It reminds me of The Thick of It. Do you remember The Thick of It with Malcolm Tucker?
Yeah.
Like Malcolm Tucker would not have, like, he would have smacked that bacon sandwich out of his mouth. Like, like, get the fuck out, are you doing? Like, no, you're not taking those photos of that bacon sandwich. He's having a photo of himself eating a Big Mac, and he's going to look damn cool doing it. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, you need that energy behind the scenes, because these politicians, some of them, as much as I admire them for their ethics and their ideas, they don't have that. I don't need them to have that media savvy, but someone needs to have that media savvy, because that's what wins elections, isn't it, ultimately? And Boris Johnson's a great example of it, but it came unstuck, didn't it, for him? Because it turned out he was he a liar and a criminal? Was that what happened?
No, surely not.
I need to Wikipedia exactly why Boris left now.
He lost confidence of the party, didn't he? Or he was losing it. I mean, ultimately, it's the support of the son that wins you the elections, which is a damning indictment of our society. But the cat belly who said David Cameron sticking his gentleman sausage inside a pig is fine now. That was one of the best days of my life. That news broke late, right? And at the time I worked nights, so I was up during the night. And Twitter was fucking amazing on that night, because that news broke around like 10:30, 11ish. It was quite late, so most of the country had gone to bed, and it was a weekday as well. So
this is David Cameron. The news that David Cameron put his winky into a dead pig's mouth.
Yeah, the rumor there, right?
News, fact.
So I've
relayed it as
glued to Twitter while like a couple of insomniac Brits were like going wild, and a bunch of like Americans and Canadians and Australians are like, what the fuck is all this? And it was like an agonizing like 12 hours ish for people to wake up and sort of like catch up with the news and run with it. It was an amazing day though. That was just such the best time to be on Twitter, was right there and then. But yeah, all that is fine. That's unproven rumor.
So that didn't rock Cameron though. He got to stay as prime minister because
exactly
when you're when you're an up and coming Tory and you go to like Eton and Cambridge and all those places and you do these things, it's just like that's what you do.
And then there's that episode of Black Mirror. There's that episode of Black Mirror where a prime minister is blackmailed into fucking a pig on live TV. And at the end of that, the prime minister stays, and he has like a boost in polls and things, and like he is an armbite, and that fucking happened. The thing that killed Cameron was Brexit. So from that point on, all bets are off. But yeah, ultimately we ended up with Boris Johnson.
Yeah, and
you can guess how well that goes. Like you said with Saatchi Saatchi, it's the idea of Boris as an image.
Yes,
they're selling you this. They sell you this sort of like scruffy haired, sort of bumbling Oxford.
He did Have I Got News for You, didn't he?
Like Cicero and things did this, quoting classical things. I tell you, Great Britain shall rise again. And, I want to be Churchill in a way. And he had that sort of. I don't know how you relate to it as a character, because it seems to be both scruffy and bumbling, and yet with like an air of intelligence and classical education to it.
Do you want me to get in on Boris, right? Because psychologically, what it is I think it's a very measured and constructed. What's the word? Like disguise.
It's a facade.
Yeah, a facade. And like, so the idea is that you are disarming people because you are bumbling, polite, and no one, like, if you're in a room with powerful people and you are butting up against them because you're equally powerful and provocative, like it's an almost one of these techniques to get people to like you and like not see you as a threat, and you know what I mean, like he's almost incompetent to the point of so he's not a threat. So you don't get this instant aggression and stuff like that. And then he is
You're not on your
that,
guard.
Like, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, essentially, isn't he? A wolf in sheep's clothing. It's underneath that, he's very calculating, and he's got his own agenda, and he has his own. Like, he's played a very long game as well. Because seeing him on "Have I Got News for You" here from some years ago, but he used to write, like, when our political system in the UK. You might decide at university that you're already in the young Tory party and what have you, and you're going to be a future candidate for this and that. You know, they know that because you're into it, and so you're from the families and you're in the parties, and so what happens is that you play a long game, don't you? So he used to write for The Spectator.
Oh God, I've just seen he's on the same show as Stephen K. Amos. Is that Stephen K. Amos?
I think it was, yeah.
He's a gay black comedian, and Boris. But
yeah. This is him disarming. This is like part of the early strategy, isn't it? But
like we know what he said about both gay men and black people.
Yeah, yeah. And like one of the things that he did that was very clever is
Stephen K. Amos, fucking hell.
he worked this angle. You know, do you ever hear about the bendy bananas? Like the EU won't let us have white bananas because they're bendy, and like that was a lie that Boris Johnson made up in the media when he used to write for an edit for these other magazines. So what he did was he created an anti-European sentiment and seeded it, and then came back later, and then you had this Nigel Farage figure who, you know, created this Brexit. Like, it was obviously Nigel Farage was like a splinter cell of the Tory party, just like undercover Tory, and then eventually they managed to corral a load of standard working class people who would normally vote Labour with a bit of nationalism, a bit of racism, a bit of all this, and then Boris Johnson was their figurehead then, like, go and vote for him. Go and vote for him, wasn't he? So that's how we got him in the end, and I think it's all a very deliberate and calculated ploy, because he's not really the man that people thought they were voting for, is he? You know,
no. For starters, his name isn't Boris. His full name is Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. So, yeah. Should we address was he British Donald Trump?
That's a good question.
Was he like actually any good?
Do you know what's interesting is what used to annoy me as well is, was America ever great? Like, America, I know, like, it was a great nation, but it's not called Great America. It's called United States of America. So what they should have been saying is, make America united again. Or, like, you know, that should have been... But what happened in the UK was we called it Make Britain Great Again. That was the nationalist campaign, because we were Great Britain. So they took the same... I think it was almost like Donald Trump was an American Boris Johnson. Like, I think Boris Johnson...
They operated in the same way. I feel that Boris is what Donald Trump would be if he actually had intelligence behind him, you know, because they operate using very similar mechanics, but Trump has sort of like less of a filter on him, whereas Boris Johnson is considered. He knows what he's saying. You know, he's not just rambling for the sake of rambling. He's doing it for a purpose. He's doing it for a reason. There is like a thought process behind it, as opposed to like the scatter shotgun sort of approach of Donald Trump, you know. So
yeah, I think actually thinking about it,
similar enough to draw equivalents, but
I'd say as well
there
that,
is a difference. All right, except your cookies, mate. Except your cookies.
No cookies. No cookies. They don't get cookies. This is a documentary on Channel 4 called Tories at War. I'm not going to play it now because it won't let me, because it says no episode available to watch on demand. But Tories at War, I watched this documentary, and it turned out Boris Johnson had like this financial money manager, you know, big donor, basically, in the room when he was making the decisions. And like the guy, like they interviewed the guy, and they were like, "What do you think is going to happen about this and that?" It was on the Brexit stuff and leadership campaign and stuff like this when Boris was on his way in, and he said, "Well, I pretty much think this will happen." They said, "Why do you think that?" And he said, "Well, I just told him to do it." So essentially, like, Boris Johnson's not just being pushed around by, but is making a lot of money with some very, you know, big banky people in the background as well. So he got the kick, he got the boot, didn't he? And we're all suffering. And then, lo and behold, we had Liz Truss next. Like, that was insane, wasn't it?
So the leadership campaign boils down to her or Rishi Sunak. And do you think it says something that they chose her over Rishi Sunak?
Yeah, I think it says
considering what happened ultimately, you know.
In my opinion, she's like a glove puppet for just like she's the sort of politician who will say whatever it needs to be said so that she can get voted in.
Okay.
And then do what she's told.
Right there. That bit where she's paused right now. Don't press play, but you can see the the quote, the comment underneath for the closed captions, is "I'm a
Not a quitter.
fighter, not a quitter."
Yeah.
This is the response she gave to Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, who asked her, what is she going to step down? Is she going to resign? That was the response that she gave him. The next day, she resigned.
Yeah.
I think very next day.
What they wanted, because she put forward all these really awful policies, like some people might think of socialism and capitalism and all, but like they were like anti-social policies, like we're just going to fuck you really hard, and no one really liked it. But the people that would have liked it were the people making the money on the markets, and like it was almost like they said, right, we're going to give them the worst Tory you can possibly get. Okay, they probably won't like it, and like if they stand for it, we win. And if they don't stand for it, oh, okay, we couldn't get away with the worst one possible. Here's the second next worst one instead. So I feel like it was like this move from the Tory party to, without election, bear in mind, we didn't get to elect our Prime Minister here. So Boris left and they said, right, who's the worst one we could put in? And she said, I'll do all the worst things. I'll do it. If you want me to do anything, I'll do it. Just like, we'll make a shady deal behind the scenes and I'll do it. And so she won. Richie had some actual policies and ideas and they were like, no, I don't know about that. Like, we just want to do the worst stuff possible. That's my opinion on it.
And I feel like to their credit, which is something that I find very hard to say. Cameron won an election. May won an election. Johnson won an election. Liz Truss didn't.
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak didn't.
Yeah.
But in this brief period from July the 7th to October 25, we go through 3 PMs. That is just such a bizarre. I mean,
modern democracy. We had 3 prime ministers. Didn't vote for any of them.
No election.
We voted for one of them, like technically, but
technically we did vote for Johnson. Well, some of us did.
Some people did, yeah.
But that's like we could talk about proportional representation, first past the post system for hours, but it's neither here nor there for this bit. The point is that during 2022, a lettuce, outlasted Liz Truss.
I think what's also really interesting, just trying to think my way back about, take a step, because I've been in and the news has been happening. I've been, Boris Johnson, I'm British and all that. But when you take a step back, what it says about our democracy in 2022, following the COVID crisis and all this stuff and people's faith in democracy, and then this is how these people have handled their time in the sun, is a bit shit, isn't it? Really, like when I step back and think about it. Just as a general, I'm just going to say that's a bit of a poor show. Like they've done a.
There was was it Suella Braverman?
Oh God, yeah.
Something about the email. She was the foreign secretary, I think, or home secretary.
Home secretary, and she was using a non-government email address to email like private documents. So like just basic, you're the home secretary, which is like security and defense is involved in some places, and you'd think that you would know not to like just use random
secure government email.
But after she lost a job, for
email
that,
private and secret documents.
But after she lost a job for that, they had her back in the next one. They were like, oh well, she's done her time now, so let's just have her back. Yeah, man, I haven't got much time for these fuckers anymore, really, because they're getting on my nerves already. I am resigning, but like you said, I am resigning. And it wasn't like when Theresa May resigned and cried. The country that I love. It wasn't that. It
didn't even get like a money's worth out of that podium. Yeah. Brand new podium, that.
Oh God, the podium. Do you know what the podia politics? I know it's more Americanization. During COVID, they had this big. It's like the Tories have got the budget that we pay for to give us a big podium stage show to say like we're governing you, and I'm like, don't use the money for that. Don't use the money for that. That's like unfair, if anything. Like,
do you remember
stop buying all this
podium?
stuff.
It was the one that looked like Jenga tower. The one that was like turned and twisted like in levels.
I think I do. Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. They go through the podiums, don't they? Yeah. Like it's the budget.
So bizarre. I think it might have been May's actually. I think it might have been May's. I think Cameron's was a bit more like traditional.
It baffled me. I know that they were governing the country through these times, but like I feel like if you're allowed to put your big television show with your big podiums and all that, like the other parties maybe should have a say in it or have some. Like it just feels like that's more advertising budget for the ruling.
To be fair, I mean I think that's what PMQs is for. So, oh god, I just saw what came next.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it up. I'm gonna get it up. Yeah,
Right,
PMQs doesn't do
you
it. Like
this,
it might...
I'm gonna take my toilet break.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, I'm gonna. What was I gonna do? I was gonna bring up Will Smith, wasn't I? That's what I'm bringing up. Getting jiggy with it. Will Smith. I don't have. Do you know what? These days, I bet if I just type in Will Smith, oh, that's what comes up. The Oscars. It's sad for Will Smith now, isn't it? That if you type in Will Smith, then first thing you get is making Emancipation my hardest film ever. Don't know what that is. Emancipation official trailer. Oh, that's interesting. Will Smith smacks this guy on the Oscars.
Hardest job tonight. Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses, he can't win.
That's not a bad joke. No one got a smack for that.
Praying that Will Smith wins. Like,
I don't want to hear that though, because that's going to get me copyright strikes, isn't it? Let's get on to Will Smith.
I love you.
Oh, there we go.
G.I.
Here we
Jane
go.
2, can't wait to see it. All right?
That's the one.
That was a nice one.
So we're going to answer two important questions when Steve gets back. One, is that joke funny? And two,
okay.
Is this the appropriate response?
I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow.
And three, was that real? Or was that a setup? What are you saying in chat? I've got it on screen, I can read your chat. I just haven't been shouting out your names all the time. We can post this epic tweet. I'll have to get Twitter out. Do you know what? If I get my Twitter out, there's a possibility that there's some not safe for work content on there. I don't post it. It just comes up on my news feed. But we can definitely have a look at it. Yeah, we can tweet. If you tweet and retweet and... Oh, I can just Google that, can't I? I can just Google Will Smith's tweet. Because he won't have made any other popular tweets, will he? Look, Will Smith's tweet. What's he been tweeting? Oh, I've been getting pegged tonight. I'm not allowed out of the bathroom until I finish mopping the kitchen. Will Smith's tweet. Will Smith's tweet. All right, Steve's back. Quick. I'm trying to find Will Smith's tweet. Tweet go. Had to punch Chris Rock. Boom. Had to punch Chris Rock. Is that what he tweeted? That doesn't sound like an apology. Right. Here he is, smacking the shit out of Chris Rock, as Chris describes it. Just for you again.
Can't wait to see it. All right?
What I want to do is break it down in 3 parts. I want us to answer, is the joke funny?
Smith wins, like, please. Lord.
Is the joke funny?
Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All
That's
right?
our first question. And then, is this the appropriate response?
Now, an important thing to point out there is that Will is laughing at first, and then he sees Jada's reaction, and he stops.
Yeah, he is. He's laughing. He is.
That was a nice one. Okay.
That was a nice one.
Out here. Oh, wow. Wow.
There's impact to it, though. The noise. His microphone picks up.
My third question is it fake or is it real? So, right, we'll go through bit by bit, yeah? We'll take on... And also, I don't condone
We're really going to
violence.
break this down.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our chance to really work the system, see how I got this system working.
It's a socially cultural event, so, there's some element of social psychology I can bring from it.
This is good. Yeah, this should be, right up your street. Absolutely. Someone got their face punched at the Oscars.
I've been biting my tongue so many times throughout all this.
And do you know what I find so weird as well is that he's not. There's so much to get into. Then he's not even knocked over, or Will Smith's quite a big chuffer. So I want to maybe discuss. First of all, we'll discuss if the joke is real. Then we'll discuss if the smack is real, and then we'll discuss the bit in the middle, the actual smack. Yeah. So let's just go for the joke first, right?
Lord.
Because he's joked about this other person, and then he comes to them.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right.
And that's just a one-liner. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. Now that's G.I. Jane is a film about Demi. Was it Demi Moore shaved her head for the role?
Yeah.
And like
great film, G.I. Jane.
So it's like a positive female role model film. Shaven head is the feature media thing that everyone remembers about it. That the main protagonist had a shaven head. Here we've got Jada Smith, who I've got. Is it Jada? No, Jada Smith, and she's got Jada Pinkett Smith, sorry, and she's got Jada Peggett Smith. She's got a That's what that's what the face he makes. So the system, the setup. Well, she's got alopecia, isn't it? That's what's happened.
Yeah.
She's got alopecia, so
it's a condition where
you lose your hair. So she shaved her head.
Hair on top of your head, it's all.
She shaved her head not through choice, but because of this alopecia, right? And he's made a joke, and the joke is looking to see you in G.I. Jane. It's a movie-related joke. What do you think about the joke?
Gail Porter had it as well, didn't she? Gail Porter.
I think Gail Porter did so much cocaine her hair fell out.
Do you think? I'm not sure that's like a side effect of cocaine abuse.
It is when you do that much. No, it is, honestly, actually. If you look it up, cocaine can make your hair fall out if you do loads of it. But obviously, for the purposes of not getting sued on the internet, that was just a joke and a conjecture. Like, Gail Porter, please don't come after me. I've got nothing for you. Mad Scottish bitch banging on my door. No, go and see Steve. Go and bang on his door. Gail Porter. Oh, she can turn up if she wants. She can do the podcast. She can turn up. If I speak her name, she will come. Gail Porter could come down. I've got nothing against her.
Did you ever see her on Ali G?
I can't remember now.
He was on the Ali G show, and he was just completely obsessed with her. It was great.
I should have a look.
He turned down the light and tried to seduce her by singing Puff Daddy, Every Breath You Take, the cover of the police that he did.
Porter, Ali G. Actually, this isn't in. Oh, look at her there. This is like classic Gail Porter when she had hair.
Yeah.
She was, when we were growing up, right? She was the one. She was the one that everyone wanted.
This is going to sound really weird to Americans, but this woman had her ass projected onto the Houses of Parliament.
Did she? Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Yeah. She was very like the hot lady of the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And she was doing all. They had these magazines, all these men's magazines and stuff before they had Pornhub. No, that sort of magazine. But like you had FHM and you had like GQ.
I bought them for the articles.
Yeah, they're like men's magazines that have a woman on the front, Maxim and all that. And then, but they're not like pornography. She didn't have to take her full clothes off. But most of them were off. Most of them. Gail Porter. And then she got no hair after that. It's irrelevant to this, but like
it is. But there's a great bit where he's like trying to flirt with her, and he turns to the crowd and goes, "If this goes well, the rest of you can fuck off." So this is a great bit, but yeah.
This is sorry, I didn't want it for the purposes of copyright. I didn't play the sound then, did I? This is Gail Porter, like now, like today. I think she did a lot of cocaine. I think she admitted to that at one point. I might be wrong.
Like, I doubt it is a factor in development of alopecia. That's all I'm saying.
Is it not? I don't want to take piss. Like honestly, if I used to be a hairdresser.
There would be more people with alopecia. Let's be honest.
Alopecia is not something I'm making a joke about. That's not what I'm making a joke about.
It's cocaine abuse.
Yeah, it's the cocaine abuse I'm making a joke about. Yeah. I actually know somebody who had alopecia as well, like this. And here's an interesting question. The lady I know, she used to just wear a bandana. She didn't bother with a wig or anything. Yeah. And nor did. I'm going to drag it right back now to Will Smith at the Oscars. Nor did Jada at the Oscars, did she? She didn't have a wig on. And like quite a lot of Afro-Caribbean culture, the ladies tie their hair back and put a wig on sometimes. So she's like almost, I don't want to use the word bold because it's it's a synonym, antonym. It's the word that sounds the same as another word. But, she is clearly bravely there with her... her head. Listen to me. She's bravely there with her head out. But she's got her head right out.
Like she's into metal, so I automatically think she's cool. So
yeah, like I don't. Yeah, I've got
it's a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it looks fine.
She's there, like saying, "Look, I've got alopecia, so what?"
Yeah, I've got no negative view of her having her head shaved at the Oscars like this, yeah? And even if I didn't know anything about her story, which I didn't before all this, I'd have just seen her as somebody who chooses to wear her hair like that. That's what I would have seen, like, because it's the Oscars, it's style. Some people do. Sinead O'Connor did.
Skin from Skunk Anansi.
Yeah, there's another great example. I met. You know what?
Alopecia, but she was. Yeah. Did you meet her?
Yeah, this is weird. I was thinking about this just today. I was thinking about how I could... This is so weird, because today I was thinking about this that happened, and I was thinking, how am I going to work this into the podcast? It's a cool story. But I met Skin from Skunk Anansi at an airport. We were going to or from... I think we were coming back from France on a fencing trip, and we were in the little... You know, you go into the Dixons...
Yeah.
You go and look at the stuff in the Dixons.
Look at the electronics.
Exactly. And there was this guy in Dixons, and he had the big dreads, and he was like buying some things from Dixons. Like he had cameras out, and I was impressed at this concept. I was like, what the fuck? Like this guy's buying shit at Dixons in the airport. Like this guy's probably got money, yeah. Like you don't buy shit, you just look at it. And it's Dixons. But then walks over Skin from Skunk Anansi, and I'm like, they're in Skunk Anansi, this is Skin from Skunk Anansi. And so I immediately, and this is a bit of a weird thing that I did, but I immediately legged it run away, and what I did was I ran all the way to HMV in the airport, and I was like, Skunk Anansi, and I got to the counter, and I didn't have enough money, and all my mates were there, and we were the fencing team, and I was like, give me some money, and like we put the money together, and I got like £10 together and bought the album, ran back, can you sign my album? Really, please. And like did that. Met Skin from Skunk Anansi though, yeah. But she chose to wear her hair like that, yeah. So going back to the Oscars.
Still, it's a very striking, especially in black communities. A lot of importance is placed on hair, so you know it is also a bold statement in that regard.
So we're all pro her having
a conversation really for us, but the point is here.
It's all good. Like, so what do you think of the joke? Is it funny? Is it too on the nose? Is it too mean? Is it like what do you think of the joke? You're allowed to say what you want.
Can't wait to see it. All right.
I didn't think it was that good, to be honest, because she wasn't in G.I. Jane 1.
True.
So, you know,
what it said to me was like he's tried to He's looked at this. Either he kind of done that off the top of his head because he's got to plan this, yeah. Like he's doing the Oscars.
I don't know. He's quite a good comedian, Chris Rock. He can. I'd imagine he could like.
He's ad-libbed a little, you know. And he's sitting there with no hair, and he's thought, right, I'll pick on the head. I'll go for the hair. Like, that's not good comedian though, is it? That's a foolish reading of the room. Like for me, I don't know. Maybe he's just gone ad-lib. Yeah, he's not reading a card, is he? Look. Well, you don't know, you don't see, it's edited. But she didn't like it, you're right, she didn't like it, and he was laughing. Like, I didn't think it was that funny. Maybe they're just laughing because, like, you know, you're at the Oscars and someone's told a joke and you have to laugh because you're an actor. Like, maybe none of them like
I think maybe he does find it funny and then he realises, oh shit, she doesn't. Because, like, that is definitely you are getting the silent treatment when we get back home. Look. Yeah.
But and also, right, check this out. So you've got you can't see everyone in the shot again because of my window. Hang on. You've got this situation where you're at the Oscars. Like for her now, I'm talking about as well. You're at the Oscars and like everyone and the cameras and like you can choose to sort of go and smile and then move through the moment. But she hasn't. She's chosen to go, oh, you fucker, and look at Will and like giving him a kick in the table. Fucking have you had that? Like, you know, she could have let that go. She's not happy about it. She's made Will aware that she's not happy about it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're saying it's not a good job.
Him going up and slapping Chris Rock is an overreaction the other way. He's laughed, realised that she didn't find it funny, and oh shit, I'm in trouble. I better go and make up for it. So the way you go and make up for it is to go and punch him for saying the joke.
So it's not even, he doesn't even give a shit about the joke. What he gives a shit about is he going to get it in the neck when he gets home because he laughed at that joke.
Basically,
so he's going to make up for that.
That's the way I read it.
Look, Chris, you've got me in loads of shit now when I go home. So I'm going to go and like it's basically your fault, Chris Rock.
Will, you got yourself in that shit by laughing. Yeah. So you know.
But I think.
But, I mean, credit to him. He took the fucking punch.
that was a nice slap.
Okay, so next question I've got, and then we'll talk about the actual slap itself, providing it's real. Is this real?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want me to do? I'll try and do a little framey frame.
You can slow down the playback, can't you, if it's on YouTube?
Oh, I can do all sorts. Yeah, I'm trying to get my little keyboard to give me the frame by frame. Yeah, I like the king of control here. I can slow down the playback. 0.25 King Jad speed. No, King Jad doubles it up, doesn't he, for Phil? The sound.
Slow it down sometimes.
There we go. There's slowing it. Oosh.
Yeah, hold on. He takes it. he stays on his feet, so fair play to him. I don't think we'll put everything into it. I feel like he probably could have floored him if he wanted to. Because like you said, he's not a small dude, Will Smith.
He's kind of up on his toes when he throws it. I mean, the thing is, if you're an actor and you prepare things and rehearse things, like you should be able to like make things look, and like what I find strange about that frame is that he's up on his toes, and like if I'm gonna hit someone, well maybe, I mean most people know that you should be like, you know, grounded and like, do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like
he's trying to get the height because he's like, you know, maybe not quite high enough to get him in the face full on. Maybe he would like clip his jaw so he wants to get full on.
Big
but
tall
he's putting
chuffer.
a lot of swing into it as well. He is,
isn't
got
he?
Much
Yeah.
wind up, and then there's a lot of follow through.
Is that dramatic or is that like?
It's a slap in it. It's a slap of disrespect. If he wanted to punch him, he would have gone full on and punched him. That's a slap of disrespect. That's
like a cuff around the head.
Say anything again, I'm gonna properly fucking do it.
Yeah. And then as he moves away though, Will Smith is very quickly not engaging in eye contact. Look, I'll go slow motion through it one more time then.
Yeah,
he's walked right up to him and he gives it him. So it's almost like he's waiting to receive it as well, which I find weird. Chris Rock, waiting to be slapped.
I don't think he's expecting it. I don't think he's expecting Will to slap him. Maybe come up and say something, but not
like a little,
slap
you know,
him.
note and having a little chat, and then and then he's gone back.
There's a bit of shock there, but you know,
Will's got a bit of a smile on his
professional as
face.
he is. Yeah.
Like Will Smith, he's got eye contact with him, then he turns away, and he's got a little cheeky smile on his face.
Yeah, I fucking showed him.
That's straight from the lips of the forensic psychologist. That's a smile of I fucking showed him.
Yeah. Well, it feels good to slap someone because that's not a punch. That's a point. He's making a point there. That's a warning slap, a slap of like, I will slap this taste right out of your mouth, boy. You know, it's almost a disrespectful thing. It's not a hit designed to hurt you. It's a hit designed to embarrass you, put you back in your place. You know,
and it does embarrass him, doesn't it? Because
you
don't know
what
what to say.
dominance thing with Will now. It's like I've got to redeem myself because
he kind of stalks away like in a dominant fashion as well, doesn't he? Like as like the king strider, like confident. He's got the hand up here, like holding his little waistcoat, almost like a Peaky Blinder gangster, almost like, you know, got a bit of an attitude about him, striding away. And Chris Rock does look embarrassed and confused after that. Poor fucker. Like, it's ruined his Oscars.
Would be, wouldn't you? What the fuck just happened? I've just been slapped by Will Smith.
And he does the shouting.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was
that was
because I mean, what else do you say at that point? Like,
the greatest night in the history of show business, he says. But
the
that
Cat
was
who has a great comment in chat saying this is what Phil wanted to do to that child in VR chat, and we can tie this into Dark Side Phil again because this brought out an epic tweet that went viral from our boy Phil.
Oh, did he? Got it viral, didn't he? Phil's viral tweet.
Yeah.
Am I going to Google that and have it come up? I'll ask Google. Phil Burnell viral. Google might help. Viral tweet. If I can spell Oscars. Will Smith. Oh, those pictures of that must be.
Well, you have just searched for him. Of course, there's going to be pictures of him.
Yeah, but like that picture. Poor Phil. Like, sorry.
There are worse pictures of Phil, to be fair.
Wait. Open image in a new tab. There are worse pictures of him, you say? Are there? Are there?
Yeah.
There are worse that picture came up as well, so maybe not that picture. Let's have the images. Is this Phil's viral tweet? Open image in a new tab. I've got so many tabs now. No, that's a different Phil. I'm got a different Phil there. So the internet didn't. Sorry, everyone. The internet didn't have his DSP's best tweet of the year. Didn't come up. Google needs to work on that shit. But yeah, I'm going to close some windows as well while we're doing this. So, what do you think about Will Smith shouting at him afterwards from a, you know?
Fucking mouth.
Oh no, I found it and I can't get to it because I am blocked by this user.
You mean you're on Twitter looking at it?
Yeah, I found it. So if you want the link, I will post it.
Link it me on Twitter and I'll open it in a tweet window.
All right, okay.
You just
I'll DM you.
DM me on Twitter. And now, because this is what we're supposed to be doing on this show now. Sometimes is we're definitely gonna have our more formal episodes where we do a bit of research and think about shit and have our shit together. But we're gonna have some more of these.
Like, fuck it, let's wander off for a bit. I don't know. Are you blocked by Phil? You might not be blocked by Phil.
No, I'm not blocked by Phil. I'm actually
a surprisingly large club.
I'm actually in his normal chat. Like, if I want to go to Phil's normal chat as me, Super Chuffer, I can go in there and he might even talk to me and respond. I haven't been mean to him in his chat as Super Chuffer. I haven't. So, like the other day, he said something nice to me.
Sorry, what? Wait, what? He said something nice to you.
Well, yeah, he'll be running around and playing the game, and I'll say something, and he'll read it and go, "Oh yeah, that," just something like that.
You actually talk to him in his chat?
I try and be nice. This is my New Year's resolution now this year as well. Is I'm going to be trying to be nice. Just like, oh, that was funny. You chopped his head off. Something like that. It's little. I think I know his humour button in a little way is a little bit like, if, for example, if he were to say like, that pipe is throbbing, and you write throbbing, he'd be like, oh, throbbing.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just that. That's all.
Okay.
I can go on his Twitter.
I never thought you would be one who would go into his chat and, as it were, touch the poop. It's just because I tend to not.
Yeah, in the past I've been. I went in covertly just to sort of get a measure of everything. Decided I didn't like it. We've had all that gone around the houses, but for the new year and for the couple of weeks leading up to over Christmas, I suppose it's Christmassy feelings, isn't it? I just thought I'd give it a fresh start and a fresh slate. And he was particularly bad.
It's the meaning of the season,
yeah. He was particularly bad, and I thought after all this time and because it's been. Actually, we'll talk about Phil in a bit. My journey with this year, because it's kind of I went more deeply into it this year and met you, didn't I? And that's part of what we did this year. So, but
2023, what the.
The renewed, I thought if I give him a clean slate and just go in as my actual self, and if I'm as my actual self, like my main channel, I'm not gonna I don't want to
openly be a prick to it.
To anyone. So I'm not gonna, so I'm not, because I'm not. So that's how it is. But I hope that it just leads to some interesting interactions in the future. I'll probably get blocked quite soon, won't I? I have to keep my mouth shut. I have to think, I'm not going to say that then. I'm not going to say that then, because I could say that here. You're doing this, Phil. But just try and highlight some of the anyway.
Yeah. So anyway,
I'm not always in there. Our boy DSP said, the Oscars said, tonight we delight the Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight we're delighted to celebrate the Academy Award winners, and we don't condone violence. And DSP said, you watched and broadcast a live assault to millions of people around the world, then awarded a man who committed said assault immediately afterwards without removing him from the building or having him arrested for the crime. That's the definition of condoning the violence. Viral, 5,000, 6,000 retweets. Viral.
Mm-hmm. Look at the likes. That's a fucking viral tweet.
80,000
any way
likes.
you cut it,
People have got their opinions down here, but I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I'm not. Someone said, "Well said." There, look, just well said. That's not even an opinion. That's just a supportive. That's not an opinion. Yeah. Usually people they have their opinions, but just to say something supportive on Twitter, that was a surprise actually to me. There, somebody saying something just supportive on Twitter. I didn't think that was what it was for on Twitter. Anyway, look, yeah. So
free Musk. So
he's gone.
It's a different place, Twitter. Then,
do you think in a way the Oscars were condoning the violence? Do you know what? I can actually see his point.
He raises an important issue, doesn't he? Because they obviously had their plans later on that night. Because Will Smith was there to receive an Oscar. He was nominated. They were going to award him, and then he does that. So it's like, do you disrupt the show or not? And personally, I think you should. because he's just punched the host.
Like if I'm the producer of the Oscars, right, and I'm in the big galley, yeah, and Will Smith, like as he's walking up, I'm like, camera on Will Smith, close up on Smith, like I'm like following this with bated breath. The minute he throws the thing, I'm like, cut the live, go to commercials. Don't broadcast that. Like I use the commercials to gather my feelings and thoughts, and obviously I've got a lot more time now. But I use the commercials to gather my feelings and thoughts, and I say immediately, Will Smith is now, removed.
Yeah.
The others that are with his party have the choice to remove themselves or not, but the Oscars must go on without Will Smith, and we're going to have to talk about that.
And then when you get to that point where you're supposed to give it him, you say, well, unfortunately, this is the bit where Will Smith would have given him got the award, but unfortunately, no. So we're moving on. Yeah.
And I wouldn't have given it to somebody else either. I would have just said, this award is now, sorry, fuck up this show with this award. Move on to the next. Yeah, that would have been the weird Oscars, but...
So it's really weird when Phil actually has an opinion. That's an opinion that he's given there, and for all we say about him fence sitting, that's actually hey, no, you did condone it. He's taken a contrary. That's it. We don't condone violence, and he's like, no, you did, and he's.
I want to try and do an impression. I've never done an
Credit
impression
where
of him
it's
before.
due.
Credit where it's due. But then I'm thinking maybe if I read it in his voice, it would make me hate it more. You watch the broadcast and I can't even do it, can I? Where's he from?
It's difficult, isn't it?
I'd have to get a hook of his, wouldn't I? Before
I've got the voice in my head. But
thanks for the money, dummy. No, I'm too New York. I can't do it. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder.
Nuttifer has a point. He didn't even know the Oscars were on until Twitter told him something interesting. That's a point. He's latching onto this here. He's not somebody who would be sitting and watching the Oscars to begin with. But he caught up and he said his piece. And
do you know what? In the spirit of goodwill and everything,
80,000 people agreed with him.
I'll agree with it. I think this is a good moment for him. And this is what I was saying on stream the other day about it. And the reason I was in his chat being nice is that I think I could take an hour and a half of Phil's stream and edit out maybe a couple of moments that are nice. That are that's like the story of his year. He's got moments of being normal. There is a glimmer of hope there somewhere. Unfortunately, it's peppered with all the rest of it. But
yeah.
That was the popular opinion. That's true. That was the popular.
Yeah,
but he voiced it like the Academy does not condone violence. Maybe he read it somewhere else and repeated it, but he voiced it in a kind of straightforward, logical way. Actually, maybe he went. You watched him broadcast a live assault of millions of people around the world. I'd have put maybe a full stop there, and then you awarded the man who committed the assault immediate. You award. This doesn't make sense.
He's difficult with his, but I mean, ultimately,
you condone the violence.
The unusual thing here is seeing Phil actually have like an opinion, because he's normally I can see both sides, so I'm
go back to this man.
A decision either way.
Let's go back to this man.
But yeah,
do we think? Do I even think? I'm actually going to ask a different question now. Do I even think the Oscars is condoning the violence here by broadcasting it? Although I would have made a different decision, I think they're not condoning violence. Like violence just happened, and like they're also in this movie industry, and there's a lot of question marks about the movie industry and violence. But it happens. So I think it happened on their watch at their show, but I didn't see anyone come out with like there's no like dancing girls going, oh, Will Smith smacked the man, isn't it good he smacked the man? Like they're not sort of celebrating it just sort of happened. So have you got anything?
Well, I think it's more that you can't, because this is live, so like by broad, it's not like they watched it and then were like, yeah, fuck it, we'll put that into the show. It happened there. They broadcast it. They couldn't.
Yeah.
No one could foresee it until it happened. And then you're like, shit, what do we do now? So it's not like in that act they are condoning it. But maybe the decision to then award him the Oscar as planned might have been seen as that, given what had happened previously.
I want to say quickly, we are going to get on and talk about Phil a little bit later when we look at what Steve's been doing last year. And I wanted to also say that in his most recent broadcast, he was completely offensive again, and I wasn't in chat for that, so I just have to write it off. But I'm not I haven't suddenly become his fan or anything. I'm just trying not to be as mean to him directly. Although at the same time, I had to cut loads of clips of him hiding in the toilet for New Year. Did you see that?
I wonder what. No, I didn't know. Is that what he did on New Year's? He was playing Warzone
uh,
and basically hiding in the toilet. Oh
Yeah.
god, that's terrible. That's so tragic. But no, like I wonder what his opinion would have been if
I've written toilet
not
camper,
given him.
and this is not what I wanted.
I wonder what his opinion would have been if they'd have not given Will Smith the Oscar later. You know, wouldn't he have been like, "Well done, you did right"? You know, because again, them filming and broadcasting it is it's live TV. It happens. You know, it's a thing that happened. It's not like someone from the Oscars went, "Hey, Will, go up and punch him." You know, so it's live TV. Anything can, you know.
Anything
can
did
innit?
happen, yeah, and that you've got to roll with it, haven't you? Yeah. This is DSP on New Year's. Look, check this out. Like, this is so funny. He describes a party.
Another car? What is going on with all these cars?
I'm just gonna grab a refill on my drink quickly.
They're having a party out there. A fucking car party. And then they're killing each other, swapping cars. Some crazy shit going on.
This is such thrilling gameplay.
Jasper's a cat.
I'm sorry, but
Yes and no. How would
I
you
hate
know?
this.
Oh yeah. I
Go,
already
come
won the
back!
gulag.
Hurry up!
Oh my god, look at this shit. Are you serious?
I fucking hate this.
I know it's awful, but wait, it gets worse. Look, there's so many things to break down. Right, number one, they ask, does Jasper feel about New Year? And he said, Jasper's a cat, he doesn't know anything about New Year. What about the fireworks, you dummy? And then he's gone, like, they're having a party out there. It's New Year's Eve, you could have a party. Instead, you're hiding in a toilet on a video game. And then he's gone out the toilet, right? Now watch this. Watch this. This is the gameplay. This is the gameplay bit. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's about to happen, isn't it? This place is bogus. This place is bogus, says Phil. Doesn't like
There's
it.
a rocket launcher there. How is?
He's not into it. Look, too many windows. They're the things you look out of to do the game, to do the shooting, aren't they? No. Okay, you don't like that one. Next. This is classic.
Oh, that's what that beeping is. It's
Bathroom
the
to bathroom.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
identical to the other one.
He's back in the toilet.
Oh my
Bathroom to
god!
bathroom.
It's like identical to the other one. No shit! It's a fucking bathroom.
And there he sits. And that's him. And then someone asks him about
Now
Jasper and
it's gonna get tough. Now
fireworks.
they're going to start killing each other off.
No, they're going to start killing each other off. He's describing the action that could be you could be watching if you were watching a streamer who was playing the game. Instead, you're watching Phil hide in the bathroom for New Year's. They ask him
loud
about
noises. Depends on the noise. Usually does bother him. Like, we have heavy rain. He actually gets scared of that and he'll run under the bed.
yeah, Jasper will hide under the bed with loud noises. So he still hasn't put the two and two together about the fireworks. But bless him, that's Phil's New Year. Yeah, just I did want to point out that I wasn't still his you know, it wasn't suddenly his fan. So we've got these chuffers. We're happy with the Oscars, yeah.
Yeah. Do we think he was right? Do you think Will Smith was right to do what he did?
No. No, I think ultimately I cannot understand. I think he made himself look like a massive cock. There was a real element of the like the boorish, self-assertive. How do I explain it? Like there's like a sort of. I don't want to throw Joe Rogan under the bus here because he's actually done a lot of changing recently. But there's a sort of Joe Roganism and maybe an Andrew Tateism that has taken over in some parts.
An aggressive masculinity.
Yeah, and like this whole alpha male thing, and like I think Will thought that he was playing this alpha male role like to a Q, to a T, like being, and therefore I used to like the Fresh Prince, mate. I don't like this new Will. Like fuck off, Will. You're a wanker. That's what I thought. Like if that's what you're gonna do, like look how little Chris Rock is, and like he's like chuff around the head. Like, and you know he can't do anything. Like, what's he going to do? Like have you over and like, if you're Chris Rock and like, it took a lot of restraint for Chris Rock because even if you're little, it doesn't matter. You can still whack him one, can't you? Like, you can still say "fuck off, you dickhead."
Like, well, if he'd have grabbed him then by the lapels and gone,
yeah, like Chris Rock did nothing and like just stood there and like, you know, Will Smith like, yeah, you're not going to do anything, are you? Fucking, I just thought it was all like poor show from Will Smith who made himself look like a right chuffer. Yeah, and I did think it was weird this whole thing. I understand the joke was, you know, maybe in bad taste. But there are other ways to deal with that. And I thought it was weird that, like you said about his wife didn't like it, so he got up and did something. Like, well, if she didn't like it, like, you know, that's bad, isn't it? He said some bad, like, I didn't say it. He said it. So I don't need, what, you want me to go over and hit him? Like, why don't you just say to him that you don't like it some other time, maybe, and we can just move on? Like, I don't think I need to go hitting people because my wife was upset. Like, it seems like a very, strange dynamic that got going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm standing by like my assessment of he did it because he wanted to overcorrect for laughing initially. Because he did. He was laughing. He laughed at the joke. He saw that she wasn't happy with it. It was like, fuck, I better do something to make amends here. I better do something to... Fuck it then.
I wonder what kind of drugs he was on. I'm going to suggest it.
Do you think it was more likely to be cocaine?
Probably, like that would make you aggressive.
Allegedly,
like that,
allegedly, we don't want to be sued by Will Smith. Either.
I've seen it in the movies, mate. I've seen it in the movies.
Hang on, he's a Scientologist. He won't do drugs.
Oh, they're not force you to do drugs in Scientology. Then is he a Scientologist? I didn't know that.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Will Smith's a Scientologist.
Bloody hell, they're all at it these days. I don't want to say anything about Miss Gavi on the internet because I might get murdered. So.
Saying anything about the royal family, innit? We noticed that we didn't mention Andrew earlier.
Oh yeah, we're going to do a full episode on Andrew when we get our heads around exactly how to. We'll do a full episode
get, like
on him.
The bulletproof vests from a secure bunker in an undisclosed location.
When we figure out how best. I want to do that. Like what we've got going on now with the screen.
Yeah.
I want to be able to get
we
that
can watch
interview
the
up.
Interview with Emily Maitlis. Yeah.
And do some. Body language and stuff like that, but the problem is that when we start saying that he was a pedo and that he went to the Epstein Island, there's going to be some troubles, isn't there? The MI5 are going to come and murder me. But no, I don't know how it works. I don't know exactly how it works. I don't think I'm big enough for them to give a shit. But
no. I think we're all right.
Yeah, maybe. But then if we get more popular on the internet, if they want, actually, if you're listening, MI5, and rather than murder me, I'll just take a check. How about that? It's an easier way to sort it out. Just take the check. I'm not blackmailing MI5 here. That's not what's happening, because then that will get you murdered. Oh God, wait. So look, next news story, according to the BBC,
let's move on quickly before we do get murdered by MI5.
Is that people are very cross in China. In China, they say no more COVID protests. In China, they say no more COVID. They're not allowed to say it, so they have to. It's good, isn't it? I love it. See, the thing is with Phil, right, is that I know that was racist, that one particularly, right? But it's funny the way he said it. Like, it is funny the way he said it. I don't know. Yeah. In China, in the news, they don't. Do we have to cover that in our? No, because we don't live in China, so
Got me then. I know what you mean. It's there's something about his pronunciation of it.
In China, they say
it's the same with. For me. It's the same with "Hello, Jew."
Hello, Jew.
In Dead Space 2.
Hello.
It shouldn't crack me up, but
it does. Yeah, it's funny. It's a good delivery of a funny line. The line's even funnier now that we know all this extra context around it, so it makes it even funnier. But given the right script, Phil could actually deliver some reasonably. That's what I was saying. Like sometimes he can be amiable. Given the right script, he could. I said you missed it. What? There's a dark side. Phil said some. I don't know.
Right, as we moved on to COVID restrictions in China.
COVID in China. Did you have anything to say about that in your notes? Because I don't. We could just move on from that.
No, not particularly. Yeah, it all goes back to what we said earlier, though, doesn't it? We've sort of all moved on an idea that we have the idea that it's done. We're all just like living with it now, even though you've literally got it right now, and most people either have had it or know somebody who's had it.
I've got it now. Yeah, so it's a load of shit.
Most people I know have it. I've not had it, but I know a bunch of people that have. Do
you know something that was interesting that came out in China, right? Not about COVID, but about the Chinese thing, is that because you're not allowed to protest because they drag you away and murder you, they were protesting with blank sheets of paper, and some of them were protesting with a sheet of paper with an equation, like a science equation on it. Is that right? Do you remember that? I'm going to have to...
No.
I'll have to Google that. China protest paper science equation. I'm sure I'm right. In symbols. Thank you, Guardian. Yeah. They deploy creative means to make political statements. So it's that there. Look, it's students from the elite school Tsinghua University in China, they say students from the elite school. Oh dear. Students from the elite school in this university that I can't pronounce protested with Friedman equation because free man in Chinese.
Ah, right. Okay, right.
It's the Friedman
Oh, that's
equation,
pretty clever. Yeah.
But it translates as free man equation. So they held up a scientific equation. Like, obviously, they were dragged off and murdered later when the Chinese government found out what it meant. But for a while there, they were doing that. And they were just protesting with blank sheets of paper as well, because you're not allowed in China to have an opinion. So
that's contrary to the States, at least.
Yeah. You wouldn't be out there protesting if you knew what was good for you, maybe. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? I'm prepared to move on from that because I don't really know how to deal with China's problems. And then next, this is the BBC, bear in mind. I'm prepared to move on from this as well because they put.
I am happy to move on from this.
Story of the year is that these two did a Netflix, so I didn't even watch the fucking thing. Like,
we can move on.
Yeah, and then the next story of that was that someone bought Messi the World Cup. So did you hear about that? Lionel.
I believe there was some football going on at some point during the year.
Yeah, let me tell you.
I believe at the start and the end of the year, wasn't it? The women did it first and then men did it.
Let me tell you that Qatar Airways sponsor PSG, and PSG have Messi and a lot of French players on their team. And in the final of the World Cup in Qatar, Qatar Airways sponsored the, in Qatar, it turned out that they were in the final. And I feel very aggrieved as an Englishman that we got cheated out of our place in that because it was a cheat. So, right, thanks.
Well, I can't say anything as a City fan because we're sponsored by Qatar Air, so No, Qatar Air. That'd be. Sorry.
No, they are. They won the World Cup. So that's the BBC's official line on what happened in the year. We've got some other things that they haven't brought up for some reason.
Etihad. That's the fucking one.
The Etihad. You're owned by a different huge. Yeah, we've got
that's a different foreign rights. That's a different human rights abusing Middle Eastern country.
We are looking for a sponsor on the stream, though.
Oil, petrochemical state, I believe, is the word.
I absolutely. You know what? As much as I completely, we should get Amnesty International up as a no joke moment while I make a big joke. Amnesty. This will work. International. Right.
I'm just thinking of a gag from an early Alan Partridge episode now.
This is Amnesty International. I think it's important to Amnesty International, hooray. But if a big human rights abusing oil conglomerate does want to sponsor the show, then I'm quite happy just to say they're good and take the money, to be honest. So, for today it's Amnesty International, but if you want to remove Amnesty International from our show and you want us to promote, your human rights abuses, then I'll take the money.
Basically, we will shill for Saudi Arabia. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if you ever, at the moment it's Amnesty International because no one's sponsoring us, so I'll promote Amnesty. But until someone wants me to, put my ethics aside and just take the money, then I'm quite happy to just put my ethics aside and take the money. It's actually that we could talk about that.
So much about my liberal hippie upbringing, but I remember writing postcards with that candle with the barbed wire around it when I was a kid. I was like, wow, that was heavy shit to lay on like an 8-year-old.
It's the reality, isn't it? I mean, at least it's like dealing with positive ways out of it as well, because Amnesty's a very good, they've helped a lot of people as much as highlighted a lot of problems. I was only joking about that. I think we should talk about the shilling when we talk about maybe DSP, but maybe we should just bring it up now because we're talking. DSP, importantly, this year has been going on about shilling, and I'm not going to get too much into his, but I wouldn't give up my I wouldn't want to be sponsored by Butchers Incorporated, but I do really want a sponsor. I'd really like to make it to 1,000 subscribers this year, monetize, move forward through the YouTube ranks, so to speak, and start turning some commercial. I want to make some money out of it so I can live and eat, frankly. And I think if a sponsor were to do that, I'd feel a lot more comfortable than if I were to ask all the people that watch to tip all the time, like DSP does. So in the long run, I'm hoping to get a sponsor, and I don't want to chill out, but I don't think you have to, do you? We could probably just find somebody who fits, that we agree with their views, and they have a good company and they make something we like, and what do you think about that?
I'm fine with shilling.
Fine with shilling.
Phil's conception of shilling is basically have a sponsorship, so he's I'm fine with it if someone wants to sponsor the show. I'm happy. You know, I'll just carry on my subtle guerrilla advertising for Lucozade because the amount of people that tweet me and go, "I've tried Lucozade; it's fucking amazing." Like I'm racking up the portfolio that I can take to the headquarters and go, "Fucking sponsor me!" Look.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to help you in that endeavour, and we'll send an email to Lucozade at the end of the show saying, "Do you know that your bottle has been seen today?" But yeah, spotted the Lucozade bottle. You can all help Steve with that by taking screenshots of him drinking Lucozade and tweeting them to Lucozade at the end of the show. Yeah, that wasn't like a bit. I was just like talking like in generality there. What I did want to bring us onto though, instead of that, was the other biggest news of the year. And then I've got some things like to take us through. At the end, I'm going to ask you about your gaming moments. We're going to go through the deaths and maybe some New Year's honours and try and say something positive about the future. We've still got what we are running at now. We've still got about 45 minutes to run if you want. Yeah, if you're happy with that. Yeah. So let's get on to the couple of other big things. Elon Musk bought Twitter, didn't he? Like, that's a big one. Where do I get a picture of that? I should get a picture. Elon Musk buys Twitter. It's quite a big one because it covers like a load of. It didn't happen overnight, did it? At first, it was a willy won't-y sort of business.
Well, it's as a Twitter user, his purchase of it has not made the site great. Mainly because Graham Linehan's back on it, for one thing.
I like that.
But
we need more comedy. Yeah.
Graham Linehan's not been like intentionally funny for years.
Oh, but he does make me laugh, I tell you. I'll tell you what I find so funny about it, right, is I know how talented Graham Linehan is as a comedy writer. Like, Father Ted and the It Crowd was some of the finest things that, like, maybe it's generational.
Black Books as well. I have to point out
Black Books, absolutely as well. Yeah, like, maybe it's a generational thing, but you have these great shows of the time, and they're certainly great shows of their time, and to think that he's wasting himself on a vitriolic war against a perceived enemy that I don't even perceive, like, it is a joke, isn't it? It is a shame, but it is kind of funny as well, like, because like, he could do a lot more with himself. Let's talk about that, right? Wait, okay. Well, instead of talking about the business, we'll talk about the business behind Elon Musk in a little bit. Let's talk about that first off. Do you think Twitter should be a free platform of free speech? Do you think that everyone should be on there? Do you think it should be unregulated? Like, I think we're both going to say no. Yeah,
no.
Yeah,
it's a private company. Like all private companies, they have the right to set their own standards. So, just as there are standards of what is acceptable to post and what's not on Facebook, what's acceptable and what's not to upload to YouTube, there are standards for what's acceptable and what's not to tweet about.
Yeah,
those are like the sort of rights those companies have. So, it's not really a free speech issue. It's more sort of like, you agree to this code of conduct, these terms and conditions, when you sign up for the site. So if you break them, it's like Phil. It's like Phil complaining about being kicked from the ad program or the partnership program on Twitch. It's like, you agreed to those standards. You agreed to that set of rules, and you agreed to what it gave them as well. Not just like, I get money for streaming on your platform, but your platform has the right to terminate me if it wants to. I'm okay with that. That's what signing up and using the service is. It's acknowledgement. It's consent. It's an admission of, I'm agreeing to this standard of behavior. So
in a way, I guess what he's done is he's kind of pulled the rug a bit and said, well, look, you thought these were the rules and these were the standards, but I'm lowering them, and that's that. Like,
it's just sort of like misguided idea of everybody should be able to have a say, and it's like, well, no, some people are stupid.
Right, it's worse than that. It's worse.
Some
people are
aren't
deliberately
experts
dangerous
on things and shouldn't really say. Look at what social media did to a domestic abuse trial featuring 2 actors. Look at what it did to the field of true crime.
Do you know what though? I just got to pause you for a minute. The problem with I have this issue as well is that we have to accept that saying that you're stupid, therefore you shouldn't have a say is like elitist in itself.
No.
And wait. I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but what I think what we're saying is more that you should have your say, but then we've got you shouldn't really listen to it and take it on board and have to be beaten over the head with it, and maybe it should slip down the algorithm and not be that important because it doesn't, or maybe it should be exposed and counterpointed. Maybe this is a question I've got, right?
Yeah, there is that argument of you let them have your say, and then the way you deal with that is you have your say in response. But the problem there is that a lie goes halfway around the world before the truth has its shoes on. So especially in a time when we've had a global pandemic and America faced an insurrection, there is a really strong case to be made for the sort of like a heavier hand when it comes to misinformation, and especially when you have what's the word? Is it stochastic terrorism or stochastic warfare, where like Russia thrives off misinformation and spreading misinformation. So that sort of thing.
When you were saying about people being stupid, do you mean like people are stupid as well? I think like people are stupid that they believe shit.
I mean,
and we should protect them from some of that bad shit.
I mean, like, not everybody is an expert on everything, So there are some times when a discussion is taking place that somebody has nothing to bring to the conversation, yet they're still going to have their say anyway,
and dominate it.
Yeah, and the potential for that person to then go on and dominate it is more and more of a risk when you say, actually, I'm going to welcome all comers. It's like, you can say what you want here, but if you say the wrong thing or you say it in the wrong way, the people who run this place are well within their rights to kick you off the service. And that's
it's kind of weird though, because
previously
they did, but now what it is that the people who run the place like different. They like different people. Now, I'd like Elon Musk. He's got a storied history, of course, hasn't he? I'm going to bring up
somewhat
about. I'm going to bring up his old Elon Musk buys McLaren. He's back when he was younger. The old Elon Musk. The old Elon Musk. The one The old Elon Musk. But Elon Musk, I remember he moved his Tesla company to Texas because he had problems. Basically, he was trying to build this big battery factory, wasn't he? And it turned out politically that the right-wing Republican aspects were easier for him business-wise. So he went out to Texas and paid less tax, and that sort of politics between socialism and market capitalism. And so he's kind of in bed with the Republicans now, so to speak, in a business sense. Like financially, business-wise, it makes sense for him to want the Republicans to be in charge. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a lot to gain from them being in charge, and that sort of opening of the gates allows people who may believe stuff that isn't necessarily true to flood the
so now he's going to
the discussion space and propagate lies further. And while you might be like, oh well, that's just obviously bullshit, we can laugh and then take the piss and everything, some people out there are going to listen, some people out there are going to believe, and some people out there are then going to go and spread it further. So just say you end up having like families not seeing each other at Thanksgiving because of one or two like an uncle or your aunt continuously watches Fox News and believes QAnon stuff, or believes that COVID is a plot by Bill Gates to microchip us, or
you said that now we're going to get banned. No, it's all right. I don't think we get banned for occasional language. I think it's fine. The interesting thing to me is that before, when it was on our side though, when like Twitter seemed more left wing, like I was happy they were banning people that I felt politically were misaligned with my view, because I didn't want to hear their bullshit. Yeah, and I thought the propagandist bullshit, but at the same time I recognise it comes from both sides, and like there were people that didn't want to hear the other side, and this brings up in my mind this whole conversation about transgender, and the TERFs and Gremlin, coming back to that, it typifies this sort of anti-woke agenda, and as a left-wing person I could see why Well, I think what they did was they put up a straw man, like a puppet of the super woke, and then they destroyed it. But like for a while there, things were more on my side on Twitter, but now they're swinging the other way because he owns the fucking thing. And don't I have to just put my hands up and say, well, you know, I at the very start I said it's a private company. Whoever owns it gets to choose. Well, now he owns it and he gets to choose. So I either like it or I fuck off. Like maybe it's that.
Yeah, well, you don't necessarily have to fuck off. You don't have to like it either. The third option is you can stay there and criticize, like we've been doing so far when it was Jack who owned Twitter, because he wasn't necessarily a very left-wing person either. But you know, at least there was a sense of like, well, you still have behavioral rules attached to your use here. There are still some things you cannot tweet. You know, we've seen people get in legal trouble for tweets they've made. So there are obviously things you cannot tweet under the Jack regime, and yeah, that's one of them. But I cannot believe he got away with that. I genuinely cannot believe he got away with that.
I mean, in a way, I also think like should be able to say whatever. I mean, I know you can't say whatever you want on the internet, like, but I make jokes all the way today, and like, God help me if in the future someone said, "Oh, you said this fucking thing," and like, I think
preemptively being cancelled. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, I don't really believe in cancel culture myself, but at the same time, I think there's this way of like, you know, okay, so check this out. Cancel culture, this is a great way to look at the cancel culture thing for me, is we grew up with Bernard Manning and people like that, yeah?
Yeah.
And they were never cancelled.
Chubby Brown. Oh, there was a great one, wasn't there, recently? I think it might have been Bernard Manning, but I'm not sure it was. But there was a comedian of that ilk, you know, and there was a program on about them, sort of like about their life and career. And somebody had quote tweeted it saying, "You couldn't show this on TV now." And it was just people like response after response going, "You know, you're talking about a show that's on TV now," right?
Yeah, like this was. I'm not going to play his racism for us now, but you know,
12 months went past. What should we have this year, Tom?
There he is telling his jokes, but you know, I'm not going to pick out a particular moment, am I? Now this is just a random bit of.
But he's a, you know, take my mother-in-law sort of comedian, isn't he? You know.
I think it's strange. I think if you're looking at this from an American point of view, you might just think he's like a, you know, they've got an old tradition with like Hollywood and Jewish comedians and stuff like that, and I don't think they have the same aggressive racism that we had. Like, I just don't think they have had it. Maybe they have had it in different places, but like Bernard Manning would make like pointed jokes about black people, like not just put like, you know, the sort of jokes about like, oh, you smile and you can see their teeth and their faces, or you know, those sort of, you know, horrible jokes, like the real crass ones, and it was just part of his act and part of his thing, wasn't it? And Bernard Manning never got directly cancelled. No one ever said, okay, like, you know, you're now racist, get off Twitter. Well, like, he was a bit before that time, wasn't he? But my point is that I lived in a time where we knew this, like towards the end of his life, he became distasteful. That's what happened. He didn't change, society did, and it became, what he was doing became distasteful. So what happened was he fell out of popularity. He wasn't on telly so much. He didn't.
That is essentially what cancelling is, though, isn't it? It's sort of
well, like... I think cancelling's more deliberate. It's like you said the N-word, and we've got footage of you, so you now have to, like, YouTube has to take down your channel, and like Joe Rogan nearly got cancelled, didn't he? Because someone put together a series of a quite bad series of things of him saying the N-word. But like the idea is that it's similar to what happens with Phil. Is that the idea is that they might suddenly have to sever ties with their sponsor and their Spotify deal or whatever it is. You know, you get written off. Like maybe,
but those are usually in response to social changes. It's like you've made a joke about race, attitudes towards race have now changed, so you are in trouble for that joke, basically. And what's happened over time is essentially that Bernard Manning slid into insignificance and essentially became a punchline or a sort of like catch-all term for a whole genre, a type of comedy that is no longer seen as socially acceptable. So, you know, if Bernard Manning was a character, it would be different. Like how the pub landlord is a character, or God, I mentioned him before as well. Chubby Brown is a character. You know, if Bernard Manning was a character, it would be different. But Bernard Manning is presented here as the person. So when he makes the sort of off-color, like Jim Davidson as well. Jim Davidson's one who always.
Jim Davidson used to do a lot of humor for the troops. So maybe they have this sort of concept in America, is that the comedian will go and entertain the troops, and of course the butt of the jokes that the comedian for that particular gig, the butt of the jokes is, you know, the foreign people that you're going to go and kill, maybe. So Jim Davidson was very much involved in the armed forces, like entertainment of the armed forces, and therefore bred this on-stage persona and developed this act full of racism. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my point here is that I think I lived in a world where it didn't have to be like, people didn't like it, so they just turned away from it more than started. Like before, this was before call out culture, because you couldn't call it out because it was normal. So we like nowadays on Twitter and stuff, people can say like, you know, oh, this happened now, and like, you know, I think this year that Lizzo said spaz in one of her lyrics. I don't understand this. How Beyonce and Lizzo, I think Beyonce did it as well. They didn't realise that using the word spaz was a slur against disabled people, so they just said it in one of their lyrics, and then they got called out for it and had to change the lyrics and stuff. So I was thinking, like, we don't need cancel culture. We just sort of turn away from the things that are disgusting to us.
Do you feel like corrective culture is better then? Because what happened was they re-recorded those lines and said, "We're sorry, we didn't know that was a slur. We've learned and we've changed these things. So from now on, we won't be saying it." And
that's good and everything, but the thing that I didn't know how they couldn't know.
Well, it's not in America. It's not as big as a slur. I mean, over here it's a massive slur, but in America it's not as much. No, it's still a fairly common word used to describe a certain way of behaving, I guess. But yeah, no, over here it's a slur, definitely. I mean, to be fair, my fucking cat, my cat,
when did Norm die?
When she was born, she was named Gypsy. That's now a slur. We now consider that a slur over here. I've just gotten us like demonetized. So if this stream goes down now, that's it. But
2021.
You know, it's one of those things. It's like.
Norm used to use the word retard a lot, like Norm Macdonald, and like that's in that same ballpark of a word that we probably used like while we were growing up, and doesn't feel to have the same sting, but has now been sort of regulated out. Now, it's an interesting conversation, isn't it? Whether you need to have this like strong regulation, and whether people should be punished for those discrepancies, and where the grey lines are drawn, and whether obviously there's something else with the Elon Musk thing, is that he's using it for political means. So you're going to see more of, and you worry about whether it's a fair playing field now, and whether trends and algorithms are going to be tipped in favour of other things. And I think he's in favour with the Republican Party. He needs to maintain their favour because it's financially beneficial. But here's another aspect of it, is that he's only 9% total stakeholder, I think, and there's a lot of other investment banks and other people in markets that are involved. And if he can destabilise things or take down even his own stock price, that's not his only business. So maybe he's playing a longer game and a bigger game in some different ways.
Yeah, he's tanking Tesla stock, isn't he? That's not been doing particularly well recently. But yeah, I think a lot of what you said rings true there. It's definitely a sort of like ideologically motivated thing, at least, where he can like be the CEO and go, "I'm going to allow all this," but you know, all it really benefits is just one political side and one subgroup of that political side. It's not everybody who's a Republican suddenly benefits, because you know, your moderate Republicans can already conduct themselves in a manner that is within Twitter's terms of service. They're not the ones screaming about 5G and QAnon and microchips and Bill Gates and all that again, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny 2023 we're going to go into with that.
I will give him this though. It is through Twitter Blue and all the jokes about Elon being, you know, like the most divorced man in the world. He has made Twitter fun in a way that I didn't expect. And I've also got a lot of use out of a couple of images, like, you know, this motherfucker paid for Twitter, this sort of thing, you know. So
That
I've
was
had
weird.
some fun with it. I have to admit.
Do you know what? It actually drew me back to. I've had Twitter for a while, but only really to argue with people with. But it drew me back into using it more often, and I suppose the DSP thing did as well. But just the phenomenon that he was buying it and involved, and I felt that people were saying it's going to kill Twitter, but I thought surely it's just going to draw more attention to it for a big boost of engagement, and engagement is quite critical, isn't it? So I was interested to see them ride that wave.
Well, if engagement is like the metric that you use, like welcoming on a bunch of previously banned accounts is going to drive up engagement no matter what, because you've suddenly got all these people who are now tweeting again. So, yeah, it's definitely boosting the metrics that way. But long-term sustainability, I don't know.
Of course, something else that happened this year then on Twitter itself as well, but spilling out into the wider sphere was our friend Kanye West. My personal friend Kanye West.
Personal friend, as you know.
Yeah. I was supposed to call him. Yeah, supposed to call him. Yeah, that's what he likes to be called. But Kanye West came out this year as a racist, didn't he? Came out.
I think that was 2 years ago, wasn't it? There's footage of him when he was announcing a presidential run. And someone's filming like this unhinged speech that he's giving, and he sort of like says something about Harriet Tubman, who's a notable figure in like the fighting against the slave trade and black slavery in America, and he basically said something about her, and the person filming it was like, "Oh no, fuck this, I'm done," and left.
It's really interesting. I will just quickly, before I lay into him, I'll quickly just say that Kanye West obviously suffered some sort of mental breakdown after the death of his mom, and is being picked apart. Whilst he's in a fragile position, there are other people trying to make money, and it's not good. And maybe he needed some time to recover before launching himself into the world of the public sphere or whatever. But he was on InfoWars, wasn't he? With a mask on, and I think he's decided this is almost like a naivety that he has, that he's learned some stuff about industry and the way some stuff works, and it's if you're naive, you can get sucked into these ideas that the Jews run the world and there's a cabal and a conspiracy, and it's like he's like part Bible evangelical, part music industry. It reminds me of in The Sopranos, where they do that whole story about the industry, don't they? The music industry, about how there are some Jewish people that did exploit black people and make money off them in the music industry, and got quite rich and famous about it. So, to discover that and to go through it is one thing, but then to decide that therefore a cabal of Jews run the world and they're trying to fuck you over is a slightly different thing.
Well, I like the idea that you can see some vast conspiracy of all these industries being controlled by Jewish people, and it's always industries that they weren't kicked out of around the turn of the century and up to World War II. So there's all these other industries where there isn't a Jewish influence on them, because the people at the time in these powerful industries dissuaded Jews from coming. So Jewish people went into banking and Hollywood and the music industry and things like that, because the manufacturing industry, the steel industry, the lumber industry, things like the coal industry and energy, those industries didn't want Jewish influence. So I mean,
I can understand from Kanye, he might look at people and say, right, you're making the money, you're Jewish, and I feel a bit angry about it. But it's a bit of a big leap, isn't it, for him to start because what he started doing now is he's got these right-wing people, and he's saying the things that they again, it's this politics of the right wing versus the left wing again, isn't it? He's moved over to a sort of Trump fascism, almost hyper Trump, super Trump was always going on about build the wall and the Mexicans, and now here's Kanye going on about the Jews and the industry. Trump was drain the swamp, and it's anti-establishment. He's anti-establishment. I see some
one of the problems with us as humans is that we sort of built for pattern recognition, and when you're in a manic state, you'll look further and further to piece together grander patterns and make meaningful connections. And there's an equivalent, there's a bias that we have, and I can't remember what it's called, I think it's called proportionality bias or something like that, where basically huge events must have huge causes. So if you have like JFK being assassinated or 9/11, those things are huge events that like really changed the world, you know. So they must have huge causes. There must be huge conspiracies influencing events to lead up to this point. Whereas if you look at, say, the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, that doesn't, because it didn't have a huge cause. It didn't have a huge consequence. He was fine. The person who had tried to kill him was arrested and he was okay. So nothing really changed. So it's not an event that's seen as having a huge cause, but bigger events are. And this whole thing with pattern recognition is really difficult to cope with when you're in a manic state, as Kanye has been, like, publicly more and more. And the problem that Kanye has is there's no one to rein in his behavior. He's in a position where he's surrounded by yes men. He's surrounded by people who will indulge him. He's a creative genius, so he's bound to have like an air of madness and instability to him. But it's like, he still needs medication. He's not well. You know, you wouldn't let him out with a broken arm to write music or to appear on shows, you know. But when it's all in his mind, it's different.
Do you know, we should do a full episode on this sort of thing.
To go out and talk about whatever he wants, but ultimately he's in a situation where he needs help, and he is
right.
in a place where he don't forget it. But
I knew a guy who was.
We could talk for a while about it.
I knew a guy who was bipolar. He was very rich, and he actually said, after some time spending a lot of money on people who were basically ripping him off, he actually said once that when he's high and mad, it was recorded in we can watch it and do a whole thing on it. Anyway, like he said that while he's high and while he's manic, I don't know if he still feels like this, but while he's high and while he's manic, he's living this like super life, this like this movie. You know, it's like it's an extreme, but at the same time, he's got lots of money and he enjoys the ride. So yes, he spends a lot of money, and yes, these people end up like, you know, taking a lot more than they should. But he had a wild time. Like, you know, this particular guy went out to Jamaica and spent some money importing some foreign ladies, as if they were like showcasing to be his wife and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, but the point being that he goes on these wild rides, and as long as he's not poor at the end of it, he was like riding the roller coaster. Maybe Kanye's in that situation. Like, how easy is it, do you think, to say, look, Kanye, like, I don't agree with what you're thinking and saying, rein it in? And he's going to say, I'm a free thinker, like, leave me alone. And like, well, like, I from an outside perspective, watching that documentary about him and his mother, and like, he seemed to mentally be different. You know, he seems to have gone through a mental health struggle, and he doesn't seem, in my opinion, to be in the right frame of mind to be doing what he's doing. But who am I to rein in Kanye West, I suppose, like, in a way?
Exactly, that's the issue that we have. Ultimately, anybody who goes, I think you need to rein it in, I think this is a symptom of, you know, you being unmedicated or you being off your meds for a while. Fucking Kanye West. How dare you say that to me? I'm fucking Kanye West. It's like Keemstar and the fuck you money thing. He's basically at the point where he can go, how dare you say that to me? Do you know who I am? You know?
And it's not just
the money. You've driven away your family at that point. You know?
It's this other aspect of, like, he can, like, it. When you're going through mental health struggles, like you were saying, and making these pattern recognition problems and certain issues of grandeur, and at the same time you're having hit records, selling loads of shoes, you know, things you touch seem to turn to gold. It might be that fuels it even further, I suppose. What I'm surprised at is that he doesn't seem to recognise in the rhetoric he speaks, and this thing about Hitler and stuff. Like, I understand that he was trying to say, I love everyone. And then you're going to say, oh, so you love that Hitler then, do you? Yeah, I love everyone. Oh, so you love that fucking Simon Cowell then, do you? Trying to go one worse than Hitler. So I love Simon Cowell as well. You know, that maybe he was trying to do that, and they were twisting. You know, they got him up there to get a soundbite, but I didn't have a question there. Yeah.
I love that we were talking about Elon Musk earlier, and Simon Cowell is the one who gets the Hitler comparison.
I just don't like what he did to the music that I had to listen to. I have to. Most of the popular culture that has been going on in the last 20 years has been Simon Cowell's fault. He's not responsible for Harry Potter, but.
To be fair, if it weren't for Simon Cowell, we wouldn't then have Rage Against the Machine as a Christmas #1. that one
maybe,
year. So,
maybe,
you know,
yeah. There
maybe
is
a
that,
slight silver lining to that huge grey cloud.
Yeah. But yeah,
But,
he's done a lot of harm to a lot of young years. Yeah, so he wasn't 2022 though, Simon Cowell. So we've got Hitler. We've got Kanye went mad about the Jews. Elon bought Twitter. Have we got anything else to say about Elon and Kanye buying Twitter and going mad about the Jews in 2022s?
I probably not that we can get through in 15 minutes or so. No.
Okay, so if it's going to be like, you know, if we're going to finish off, then yeah, because like otherwise I could keep you like here talking for hours, but yeah, 15 minutes or so seems about right, doesn't it? Like, that because we've got future hours in future episodes. This is the picture of the Queen.
Yeah.
She's dead now, right? And that's not.
You should put a H on her forehead.
The hologram, and then just continue to reign. Just
yeah, she should have just done that. They should have just made her a hologram. We'd
they could have
still be
projected her onto
happier
Buckingham Palace.
Reign of Queen Elizabeth, the deceased.
So what we're going to do is I've got the quick. I'm trying to move my window around. It's enough. It's good enough now. I'm going to move through. This is the BBC actually, and they've got a list of people that died. So it's not just the Queen. It's also this chuffer. Do you know who that is?
Joseph Ratzinger, yeah. Pope Benedict.
Pope Benedict. I didn't know his name. He's dead. So you know. Bye-bye. Then next
I feel like, right, to be fair, a lot of people call him a Nazi and say, like, oh, he was part of the Hitler Youth. But to be fair, as a child, he was conscripted into the Hitler Youth. They didn't have much say in the matter. And it was towards the end of the war. So
yeah, but he enjoyed it.
I do feel like you shouldn't really criticise him for that. The sort of the approach towards sex and contraception and abortion, yeah. The way he handled child abuse cases in the church, yeah. Being part of the Hitler Youth as a child, maybe not.
The thing is, right, with the child abuse, the way he handled it, and I don't know how. Don't know much about how they work things out in the church, but it seems pretty important anyway. I get in the look on his face, you get the impression that he was a bit of a chuffer. So I'm just going to say bad chuffer, and like, you know, I don't know if it's right.
He's Pope. He's bound to be a bad chuffer in one way or another.
I don't know if it's right to judge people on that evil look on their face, but like bad chuffer for me. I would be scared. Do you know what? I'm going to say this outright on the internet. I don't care. It's the truth. Sometimes you get a bad vibe off people, don't you? And it doesn't matter if they're the Pope or whatever. You think, oh, I'm not sitting on your knee, you bad chuffer. Yeah, he gives me the creeps. So I'm glad he's dead. Fuck him. Put him in the bin. Next one, stage and screen.
Next one in room 101.
No, these are just dead people. They're going to room 101 automatically by nature of being dead. Dame Olivia Newton-John. I really enjoyed Grease. That was good. Can't remember anything else she did.
I fucking hated Grease.
Really?
Oh, no. I hate Grease. Yeah.
You didn't have a younger sister though, did you? So
no.
Because we had to do the dramatic reenactment of dances when I was young, as part of a sort of, at least Grease had male parts, you know, walla walla walla,
fair.
And we did it as one of those. My mum put us in the amateur dramatic, you know, after school club. I think they did a Grease. I was the year later, but they were all singing the songs. It was one of those sort of things, you know. It was yeah. Grease was a popular thing when I was a kid. When I was like a kid. Like, I don't know why she looks so angry in that photograph, but she's dead now, so that's probably why. And I don't remember her doing that much else, but it's sad that she's dead.
Pre-Pulp Fiction John Travolta, that's why.
Right. she's dead and it's sad, yeah? These two, I'm going to have to do my screen. Did you know that Ray Liotta was dead?
I did, yeah, but I'm not a huge fan of his work anyway, so...
He was in the old films.
Uh-huh.
In the old films with the old mafia. He's usually a bit of an eggy character. Looks like he's wearing eyeliner, but he's not. He's dead now, and I think it's a bit sad, but I didn't know he was dead until I saw that. So then guess this guy. Now I feel bad because he's dead, right? I do feel bad because he's dead. Well, I don't feel bad because he's dead. I mean, I feel bad for him that he's dead. And do you know who he is?
Wait. He kind of looks like oh fuck, what's his name? One of the Daniel Hannon, isn't it?
Is James Caan or Kane?
No, I know he's James Caan, the actor. Yeah, but I mean, he looks like Daniel Hannon, the politician.
Puff Puff Pass, Pommy Lingo. What is Chuffer? Chuffer is like, it's actually Northern English, isn't it? Chuffer. It's more not really from my part of the world, but I'm trying to not say fucker all the time. So that's why I'm saying chuffer, but yeah, it's like a self.
into another word that begins with C. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to self-edit my swearing there. Right, next on the list. Now we've got a big one. Look, Paulie Walnuts.
Oh, from the Sopranos.
Paulie Walnuts. So, like, rest in peace, Paulie Walnuts. He was actually a giant of the industry. Well, I thought wasn't he one of these people that I should know more about him. He's dead. He was actually a real mafia, like real.
Oh, he had experience.
Wise guy.
Like,
yeah.
Real involvement with them. I didn't know.
I think because there were a couple in The Wire that were actually like real humans before they were actors.
Yeah, they were real gangsters in The Wire. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think he was one that had some direct. I might be wrong. He, other movies as well, including Scorsese's Goodfellas. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but I thought he might have had some on-street experience as he was a young fella. But Paulie Walnuts was major, wasn't he, in The Sopranos? Like you can't do another Soprano. Well, you can't do another Sopranos now, can you? Anyway, but Kirstie Alley. Cheers and cheers.
That's weird. It feels like she died too young.
Yeah, she was in Cheers.
Yeah.
So I don't know who else. Woody's still going, and he's like how old is he now? He was quite young in Cheers, wasn't he? I don't know how many. I wonder how many. This is very. This will cheer you up. How many members? how many members of Cheers? This is like a little quiz. Cheerful quiz for the new year.
Right,
how many members of Cheers are dead? How many members of the Cheers cast are dead? I would say like more than half. The coach has got to be dead. Right? Let's have a look. It's got its own website. Show purposes. Get off. No, none of my. Get off. You're not having any of my data. I'm not telling you anything. Confirm my choices. So,
he says as he streams all this.
I'm on the internet. Yeah. He's dead. He's not even in Cheers. I don't know who he is. So what are they fucking going on about? Who's he? He's not in Cheers, so he's dead. He's not in Cheers, but he's dead. This is Cheers actors. They're in Cheers officially. There you go, Coach. Dead. Told you he would be. Phil. There, that guy. I don't remember Phil from Cheers. They're making it up. Al Rosen. He's not in Cheers. Where are all the Cheers people? Corinne. I thought the Norm was dead then. Maybe they're not dead. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe this is not a modern article. They're really scraping the barrel there for Cheers actors. Okay, that was cheerful. Where's my actual dead... wait. There we are.
Kirstie Alley, the dead list.
The dead list. Anne Hesh. That was bad. She died in a car crash, didn't she? That was awful.
Oh, right, yeah.
She got wrapped up in... around a tree or some shit. But that was bad that she's dead. Sidney Poitier, quite important in cinema.
Very significant.
Very significant.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of the films that he did. Not really a big fan myself, but 1963, Lilies of the Field, Humanitarian and Diplomat. Do you remember any Sidney Poitier films, or is that just maybe it's just a bit after our time?
No, I think it's before our time. Yeah. But you can recognise that this person was a leading figure in the industry. It's very notable for being a black actor at that time.
Yeah,
as well, so,
I know that he got a lot of respect and flowers through his life for that. Groundbreaking reasons. Yeah, Dennis Waterman, exactly the same. Groundbreaking, lot of popularity. Did the theme tune of the Minder. Everyone watched Minder. So
yeah, I was about to say like British gangster, not gangster, but crime cop sort of
London.
dramas.
We liked him.
Yeah,
he appears to be wearing a bit of a wig there, and God rest his soul. And then Leslie Phillips here,
the Bobby Charlton, as we call it.
Yeah, the comb-over. Leslie Phillips here. I don't know how. Did he avoid U-Tree somehow? He avoided the U-Tree investigation and managed to get himself all the way to being dead without being convicted of a sex crime like his peers of his generation.
That's our bar from anyone from 1970s and the 80s British culture now, isn't it?
Yeah.
How
they all got done.
People,
It wasn't just Jimmy, was it? It was Rolf, and it was
Rolf got it. Yeah.
What about? There wasn't that
Cliff
other one?
didn't.
Cliff Richard? No, he's too classy. He loves God. Cliff and the Queen. Actually, Cliff and the Queen and Jimmy Savile and the Queen. So, I like to think that they all had a hand in it and they're all complicit. So, Leslie Phillips and Peter Bowles there though. He was on a comedy series or two, and it's sad that he died in 2022. I mean, I'm trying to be nice about it, but she was. Yeah. I recognise her as Nurse Gladys Emanuel in Open All Hours. She was cheerful.
Oh right. Oh, is that right?
She's dead now, so just enjoy that. We're starting to scrape the barrel now because I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
And he was in the Vicar of Dibley, but he don't really get a proper mention, like on the honours list.
Yeah. If you're not going French, then you know.
Yeah, like he's just one of the fellas from the Vicar. Forget it. Like Dame Angela Lansbury, on the other hand.
Angela Lansbury, yeah.
Yeah, big.
But again, very significant person.
The thing is, right? Even as a kid, I used to think she was already dead. So I'm surprised
because she looked that old in the show then.
And because at the end of the series as well, at the end of the show, like there's a book, isn't there? And she like closes a book, or is it at the start?
Yeah.
So and I got the impression that it was like old stories of someone who's dead because the book closed and she's old. I was only a kid. That was just my impression. She's not dead. Well, she is now.
Shout out to the YouTuber Pushing Up Roses, who does like reviews of Murder She Wrote episodes.
Right, I thought you were going to say obituaries.
No, she does like reviews of certain shows. I think she does like Buffy as well. And
we should have a look. Yeah,
I can't remember. But yeah, she's pretty good.
Here we've got some famous EastEnders. Now these two I will shed a tear for. That's Arthur.
Arthur.
Bill. And
Arthur.
Dot Cotton.
Dot Cotton.
Only marred by the Queen's death. If it hadn't been for the Queen, this would have got a lot more attention this year.
Yeah.
June Brown's death. She was a classy lady herself. And she carried herself well. We've got Ruth Maddock and
Heidi High.
I think he was. Oh no, he was in a Carry On Jack, wasn't Ruth Maddock from Heidi High? Yeah, it's a shame that they're dead. Robbie Coltrane, a powerhouse.
Oh mate,
powerhouse. Oh. Why didn't they put him at the top of the list? Powerhouse.
Cracker is why I ended up in forensic psychology.
Cracker
is why I'm where I am.
I used to watch Cracker when I was a kid. Yeah,
hit me hard. When I think I was like 7 or 8, and I was really ill this one night. And you know how you are when you're a kid and you're ill and your parents are up, so you lie on the sofa with them. And I had the bowl on the floor next to me so I could be sick. And my mum was watching Cracker, and I think it was part 2 of To Be a Someone, which is the one with Robert Carlyle, where he plays the Liverpool fan following Hillsborough.
Yeah.
It stayed with me, that episode, because my mum sort of like explained it to me as best you could, an 8-year-old, but
what's strange as well is that back then they used to get people like Rob Carlyle, who went on to become like a proper Hollywood actor, and you would get like these like little cameos in these shows, wouldn't you? But they were really quality, well written. And I don't know if I'm right in saying this. I think Danny Boyle directed some what's his name, Inspector Morse. I think Danny Boyle directed some Inspector Morse. So I think you get some crossover with some really talented people working on some of these shows that we take for granted growing up. We're just like TV cop shows or whatever. What was it? You're saying you wanted to be a forensic psychologist. Was it the difficult police aspect, or was it the terrible home life that attracted you to the portrayal of a forensic psychologist in Cracker?
Initially, it was the addiction to booze and gambling.
Yeah, he got to do a lot of drinking in that, didn't he? His wife was always cross. I remember that. Yeah. Good old Rob. And then he found even further fame by being in Harry Potter or some shit. So right. Anna Karen's dead. Patricia Baker, they're dead. Sorry, Anna. But you died
no disrespect.
No disrespect, but you're dead. Gwyneth Paltrow and Kay Mallett, you're dead. Right. I'm doing the death list. It's the end of the year. We'll do it every year. We'll make a thing of it. And I'm sorry if Kay Mallett is your favourite actress, screenwriter, and director.
We'll get Meerkat to do as like an intro song for us.
You're dead. Nichelle Nichols, who was Uhura. Like that's a big one. But maybe more in America and stuff, but globally maybe a lot of people would have had
globally,
feelings,
the impact of Star Trek globally is, you should be recognised. So yeah, that's a big one.
And now she's dead. And then we've got these Sachin Littlefeather and Lata Maga. I don't know them. She's a Native American activist, for Christ's sake. Now we're really getting to the thin end of the wedge, because like people that I've never heard of.
Meatloaf went.
Meatloaf. Did you see Meatloaf? Where was Meatloaf?
Yeah.
Is he further down?
There you go. Music. He's got a brief mention there at the top, but he'd probably be like a bit further down actually.
Music. All right, yeah, it'll be at the bottom. It'll be at the bottom. Jerry Lee, I just quickly. These should have got more airtime. Well, they did over the years. Jerry Lee Lewis, Vangelis. I've recognised the name. Gary Brooker from
Chariots of Fire. Vangelis, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah.
All right, that's good actually. Then, yeah, because that is influential. I love it when there's music that's influential that you don't really realise is that influential but it is, isn't it? It's
yeah, Blade Runner as well. He did Blade Runners. What about that?
We've got some singers here. Ronnie Spector from the Motown Wall of Sound.
The producer,
era.
Wasn't he? Or am I getting? I'm getting.
Sorry,
I'm someone else.
There she is. That's Ronnie Spector.
I'm thinking of Phil Spector. What the
Phil
fuck?
Spector. We're getting our Phils confused. This is quite a long list, you know, the fuckers. There's Meatloaf, finally, right? We get to Meatloaf, good, because we needed Meatloaf at the end. Yeah. And then their list goes on, though, look, and they're taking the piss now, because we're trying
Coolio!
Michael Gorbachev! Wait, we should keep going, shouldn't we? I'll scroll quick, and you can say shout names if you recognise. I'll make it smaller so everyone can see the whole thing a bit more. Coolio, he's dead. Too late. Can't hear you. Poor Coolio spent most of his life living in a gangster's paradise, so it was tough for old Coolio.
Well, at least he 23 now, but at least he made it to 24.
Will he live to see 25? I don't know.
The way things is going, I know. Well,
he
made it.
Everything's gone fucking out. Wait. I've got a better way of fixing it. It just went away on its own. Firefox, edit, untransform. Why did you do that? Firefox, edit, transform, reset. Just totally reset the bastard. Come on, reset. It's gone all the way over there. Right, I'm going to use a different one. I'm going to use this one, and I'm just going to make it smaller again, and I'm just going to bring it. Sorry about this, everyone. Sorry about this. Let's bring it down there. That'll be fine. Wilco Johnson, Andy Fletcher. Next, Maxi Jazz. You can't get no sleep.
Darius! Oh, Darius from Pop
Darius
Idol, the Pop Stars.
Maxi Jazz can't get no sleep. He can now. Darius, Darius, right? What the fuck is he doing being dead? That is weird, isn't it?
That is so weird. That is too young. Darius should not be dead. He's just... It's not right. He's one of us.
Yeah, he hit me baby one more time. It was all cheesy and funny. Yeah,
he was viral before virality existed online, wasn't he? He became a huge thing in England because of his very awkward and unusual. What's the word I'm after here?
He was
attempt at singing. "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears. See if we get.
Auditioning for the X Factor, wasn't it? Or was it? I can't remember whether it was.
I think it was Pop Stars.
Pop Stars, right? Yeah, Pop Stars. Give
like
it
a precursor.
Don't worry, what are you
really making that song your own.
Your favourite, Nigel? Baby One More Time. Nobody else.
Baby One More Time.
And I must confess, I still believe when I'm not with you, I lose my mind. Give me a sign, hit me, baby, one more time.
And now he's sucking cocks in hell. So,
Well, no, the weird thing is, right? He didn't do very well there, but then I think it was like 2 or 3 years later when the X Factor was a bigger thing. It was the one with like Will Young and Gareth.
He came back, didn't he? He was
good.
Yeah.
He like properly.
He had a proper career.
Was like, hey, this guy is not some crazy nut job you're supposed to laugh at because of their embarrassing auditions. He came back and could actually sing.
Yeah, like he had his own like little music career as well, didn't he? With his own.
He had his own songs
and that.
out.
I wonder why. I wonder if it was like excessive cocaine use that led to his death or something. Because it seems a bit strange that he's already parked.
I'm finding a running theme throughout this episode.
My thing, right, with the celebrities is they're either got a wig on, or they're on cocaine, or they're a pedo. It's one of them three. Usually with the celebrities, that's what money changes you. It's what happens. You either end up with a wig
Never
on,
all three.
doing a load of cocaine, or
sometimes all three.
Jeffrey Epstein Island, yeah. So I don't know what happened to him, but that's a bit weird, isn't it? We've also lost Coolio and Terry Hall from Terry Hall was this
specials.
town.
Oh god, yeah.
Coming like a ghost town, so did that one song. Mikhail Gorbachev, reasonably popular. Madeline, I mean, dead now, but in his time, Madeline Albright.
Madeline Albright, yeah.
I honestly thought that she was, when I heard that she died, I honestly thought they meant the one out of this Third Rock from the Sun. So, confused the fuck out of me. David Trimble was an Ulster Unionist party leader. That's Scottish. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's Northern
Ireland. Yeah, Scottish, yeah.
That was the wrong voice. So, Northern Ireland now, an Ulster Unionist party leader. He is instrumental in the negotiation of the Good Friday Agreement. Like that, yeah. So,
I feel like I'm watching Harry Enfield.
This is just freeform jazz. Bao Tong, dead. Jiang Zemin, dead.
The Harry Enfield character where he's like the Ulster Unionist at a party. Would you like some cakes? He's like, certainly would not.
At a party, yeah. Harry Enfield was like growing up on that. Learned to swear through Harry Enfield, yeah. Bill Turnbull, actually sad that he's dead. Dead. I mean, it's sad they're all dead.
Yeah,
he
was
sad that
like
he's dead.
Quite a popular person online, wasn't he? Online, on TV. He was a morning TV host for a while.
Yeah. Dame Hilary Mantel, don't know her. Raymond Briggs, Shirley Hughes.
Briggs. Oh, wow.
You liked him. He was the snowman. You did your snowman. You liked the snowman. And he's dead. He's gone. Did you see the snow dog this year? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I gave it a little watch, but my dog also dead. So fucking that was enough for me. But it was a little bit emotional. But you know what they did? They didn't shell out the license for Walking in the Air again. They used a different song, and I thought, like, just at least
not the same.
You've got to at least have the song. Shirley Hughes dead. Dave McKee and Henry Patterson, children's author and another author. Like writing books isn't going to get.
Oh, Beryl Virtue! Wow. A comedy producer for like loads of like maybe Behaving Badly in that.
Oh yeah, no, maybe Behaving Badly, yeah. She got Benedict Cumberbatch started though, so that goes against her. And then Victor Lewis Smith was a surrealist comedy that I think people quite respected. They keeps coming. Bernard Cribbins, John Bird, Barry Cryer.
Bird of Fortune, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't see there, but they're Barry Cryer. These are
Barry
proper.
Cryer, wow.
They're proper,
old comedy writer, yeah.
Operation U-Tree, evaders. They're proper. They're achievers and people who left their mark, like Johnny Johnson and Luke Izzy Miyake. Unbelievable, Izzy Miyake. Now, Vivienne Westwood's dead, yeah, because she was already like 99, 100. But Izzy Miyake, like my sister wears his perfume. It's like he's quite like a. He's a designer, like a Jasper Conran sort of figure, like quite a cool dude.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he's not now, he's dead.
Cool, so... Yeah.
Like, he designs stuff and does perfumes and clothes and stuff and, like, shoes. And now he's dead, just, like, gone. Like, it's a bit weird. Nino Cerruti. Like, I often wonder about this, and this sounds a bit harsh. I'm just, like, having a little light-hearted bit at the end of the episode. In fact, my calm, relaxing music has stopped, yeah. Using the dead for a little bit of a humour bounce. Light touch at the end, but I often wonder, like, all the things that Izzy Miyake has achieved in his life, he's done quite well. But I'm winning, aren't I? Because I'm still alive. Like, so right. So I often wonder this about Phil. Like, I really, I don't want to say this on the internet because recently I should touch this while we're touching the dead people. Isn't it the case that Mr. Mekatu is suffering with cancer and he's going to die?
Mitoke. Is that what that was about? I saw something about that, and I saw that he'd been.
I didn't watch a lot of their stuff, so I don't feel like personally like hurt by it. But that's actually one from the detractor community in a way, isn't it? So
he's covered Phil before, yeah.
So Phil's going to get a win on him, isn't he? So I hope that I outlive Phil. I just hope I outlive him, and then that's a win. So we'll move on. Ivana Trump. So money couldn't save her. Dame Deborah James. That was a sad one because she did a lot for charity towards the end. Do you remember that? She was in the news a lot.
Vaguely, it's ringing a bell, but
she had bowel cancer, and she was like a vlogger, and so she did a lot for the cancer charities. Like it's one of these where obviously like you do a lot for the charities of the thing that you've got, like Rob and M&D, but like I don't feel aggrieved about people for spending their last years like working really, really hard for charity. So I think quite good of them. Like so she died. Hillary from Dragon's Den.
Oh, right, yeah. She was only in a couple of seasons, wasn't she?
Hillary from Dragon's Den, and also another drag queen, Cherry Valentine, as well. Did you not spot my little joke there?
Drag and Dragon, yeah. I see what
No, but another drag queen, because Hillary's not really a drag queen. She's actually a woman.
Yeah, she's a dragon.
Okay, unbelievably, it keeps going. Pele, George Cohen, Terry Neal, Esther Piggott, Eddie Butler, Doddy Weir. Doddy Weir's sad. He had motor neuron disease, and that is bad. Like, you know, again, like, did a lot of campaigning for it, and, you know, good on him. It is weird the way, like, when people are hit with these things, they decide to do a lot of campaigning for the charities. I hope that other people in their sport, and they do, a lot of people do a lot for charities, don't they? But I hope that people see that and think, you know, you don't have to wait till you're afflicted by something to start doing something for charity. Like, that's always
no, but maybe it's like having the personal experience of it makes you think, wow, this is a really shit thing. I think nobody else should have to go through this like I am. So,
it's a double. My granddad went through it, and I really respect Doddy Weir, but and I'm not saying anything negative about, you know, doing that charity campaigning. I just find it like I said, like I think we should, as a society, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone there. I'm saying, like, socially, you know, we shouldn't wait till somebody's really poorly with it before we say, oh, hang on, we should try and fix this for Doddy. Like, you know, I think that we should have all pulled our socks up a bit more over that a lot earlier. Like, but what can we do?
Is that Shane Warne?
Shane fucking Warne, yeah. Shane
Fuck.
Warne. Mad, isn't it?
He's too young.
Yeah.
Surely.
And I think it's because you think of him as quite an aggressive, vivacious sort of character. Like,
yeah, he's a very big character, Shane.
Yeah.
Very. One of them sort of people you imagine has like a really deep, booming voice, and, you know, like he's always a commanding presence at social gatherings.
Exactly, yeah. So to think of him as just like gone before his time is a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. And that's all the dead people that were notable enough.
That were worth
the
BBC mentioning anyway. Yeah.
I
do have something cool to wrap up with, though.
Yeah,
I've got like a cool thing or two to mention.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you about gaming moments of the year, but that's an entire another conversation, and we're coming towards the end. But I've also got noting that you've got notes that you might have made about other stuff that maybe we didn't get to bring in.
Also, I don't really play current games anyway. I tend to sort of like be a couple of years behind because I get my game. I wait till stuff goes on sale for like 50, at least 50, if not 75% off. Or I'll wait till it's in a bundle.
Because what we've done is we've come to 3 hours. I'm just saying this to everyone out there as well now. We're going to like come to the end of the show because it's like logistically towards the end of the show. But we've got a lot more to talk about, and we're going to be doing a lot more episodes in the new year. I wanted to go through Steve's channel with him and say, like, what's your highlight of the year from the channel? We're just going to I'm going to allow Steve to direct me on how much more he wants to talk, because if I asked him that, it could be a 12-hour episode. So, you know, that's an optional question.
That's always a risk with me, to be fair.
And today's been all about, as well, it's been all about using this new technology, making sure it works. If it's worked well and it sounds good to everyone out there, in the future we'll bring in more guests, and we're going to do more interactive content and the gameplay stuff. So I'm just really happy this one has worked in general terms, especially as I've got the COVID. So yeah, I'm going to hand over now to you, Steve, to tell me exactly what you want.
Oh my god, I've only done like one video a month I average out. Fucking hell.
That's all right. Like, some people do, like, but they are 5 hours long. So like, some people, you know, divide that by like 15 minutes and one a day. But
in context, in terms of content, I feel like the Champions stuff is probably like the most important, because it's just like the biggest thing in the detractor sphere in general. But in terms of how I broke down an episode, I feel like how I broke down an incident of Phil, I feel like it's the one where he says the transphobic slur, not necessarily for the content, because I know some people didn't agree with what I said, but the way that I sort of took that incident and broke it down on levels, so it wasn't just, you know, he said the rude word, he said a slur thing.
It was a relatively shorter video.
Yeah,
an hour and a half.
Yeah, relatively shorter. Yeah, an hour and a half. But fuck. But I feel like it was more structured, whereas the champion stuff, there was so much to go into it, had to be spread over multiple videos.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But there's more DSP stuff coming, because there always is with Phil. I've already got like the evil AJ when he watched the Metal Gear Solid 2, This Is How You Don't Play. I've also got stuff about his back to go up, and yeah, I'm editing stuff for that being said as well, so there'll be stuff from me coming out there because it's usually ALT that edits stuff, and I want to help out a bit so I can feel like, hey, I'm contributing a bit more. So yeah, there's that. I also want to sort of like start clipping stuff from this as well because I think
absolutely,
there's stuff that we could do there. But yeah, I want to quickly bring it back to these two things that I found, right? Because these are really cool things. I'm really happy about these.
I'll try and bring them up.
The first is that the Whiskey War ended. And do you know what the Whiskey War is?
No.
The Whiskey War is a conflict that took place between Denmark and Canada. There is an island in the middle of a channel between the northernmost tip of Canada and Greenland, which is a Danish colony. And what Canada did in like 1984, I think it was like early 80s, a Canadian Navy like admiral went to this island. This island is disputed. It's like right in the middle of this strait, so it's disputed territory. So the Canadian naval admiral went, I think it was a naval admiral, went there and they planted the Canadian flag, and he left a bottle of Canadian whiskey.
Right.
And a little while later, the Danish came by, and they took that down. They put up their flag, and they left a bottle of schnapps. And then the Canadians came back and took that down and put the flag up and put whiskey. And then the Danish came back and they took it. And this thing kept going back and forth for like nearly 30 years. And then eventually, gradually, I think this year, well, not this year, obviously 2023. In 2022, I've got it dated June 14th. They basically announced we've come to an agreement about it. You know, we've divvied up the land. Everything's fine. There's no need.
That's the island there on the picture.
Yeah, it's a tiny little island. It's a remote piece of rock. It's only really used for like geological surveying purposes. But I just liked that there was this international conflict that was fought entirely over leaving bottles of vodka on a rock.
Yeah, it's nice that it gives a nice counterpoint to Putin's aggression in the Ukraine, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was actually something that spurred it, because this thing has been going on. There's been, since the 1980s, and there's been talks to resolve the issue since like 2002, I think it was. But things going on now sort of like made Canada and Denmark go, should we just like hurry up and wrap this up and show that we can solve international disputes without resorting to arms? And so I think that's a really cool thing that they kept doing. I think it's really, really sweet that, because some dork out there found that hilarious. Someone in like a navy or a geological survey station or something like that thought, this will fucking rile them up. And I love it. I love that there was that little friendly back and forth. It was a conflict
with the bottles of whiskey.
Nobody, literally nobody happened. All that happened was Canada and Denmark sort of grew a bit more as they got like tiny little bit of this island each. So I think it's really sweet. It's one of my favorite things. And the other thing is the HMS Endurance was found. They have a thing for those adventurers and polar explorers and things like that, because there's an air of like the old British gentleman explorer.
Captain Scott?
Shackleton.
Shackleton,
yeah. It was lost trying to get around the Atlantic. It's been found now. It's currently not been scanned. What they were going to do was going to scan it in 3D, but
it's not looking in very good nick.
So. It's surprisingly good considering it's over 100 years at the bottom of the sea.
Oh, it's been at the bottom of the sea, right. That'll be why, then.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was. I thought it might have been encased in ice or something somewhere.
But... No. The ice, it got trapped in ice and crushed by it, and eventually it sank through it.
Right.
But the thing is, there's footage of it collapsing, and you can find this on YouTube. And this is like the video that I mentioned to you before we started that I think you should look at, because it's really interesting that in this really remote part of the world, on a wooden boat, in 1915, there was somebody there filming it. And there it is, the end of Endurance for BFI.
British Film Institute. God save the Queen.
Well, the King now.
King.
But look, you can see that's footage from 1915. And it's the ship collapsing gradually. And it's got that old sort of that unreal look to it, because it's not shot at as many frames, so movement doesn't look quite right, and it's all flickery and it looks distorted, and there's like this weirdly disconnected through history. Never really moved, so Yeah,
And
the
then
fact
they
that it's
found
all
it.
like disappeared, and the people working on it were saved. They lived. They made it to a waypoint, and then sailed to Elephant Island, I think it's called, and then Shackleton and a few others left to go and get help, while the remaining crew stayed on there. And while it was difficult to get rescue to them because of the nature of the seas around the area, they did eventually come back like half a year later. It was like 128 days they spent on Elephant Island, but they all managed to survive and get out, except they took some husky dogs with them so that they could sled across the ice. And there were some that Shackleton had to have put down, because obviously the moment you're abandoning ship, everything you have to take, you have to carry. So you have to justify everything. You have to justify keeping someone if they're, going to be a drain on your resources, because you have to carry the food. So
the
it then
doggy's
becomes
got
a
it.
case of we have to eliminate everything that's, not immediately carrying something or
That's
immediately
sad.
contributing to help. But the worst bit is, he also did it to the fucking cat. There was a cat on board called Mrs. Chippy. And it was called Mrs. Chippy because Chippy is slang for like a woodworker.
Right.
At the time.
Yeah.
And the ship had a woodworker who would, would go around and maintain the ship. And this cat followed
Sorry,
him around.
excuse me, my
and the
tummy's
crew
rumbling.
joked.
If you could hear that on the mic, I bet you can as well. It's my fucking tummy rumbling. I apologise.
I feel it. It happens to me too. But this cat followed the Chippy around, and the crew were like, follows you around like your wife. So they called it Mrs. Chippy. And it turned out to be a male cat. But the crew loved it because it was like very friendly, very amiable. It was, it could climb the rigging very well. It could like balance on the beams and things when the ship was rocking. So they were like, wow, the cat's not falling over in the sea while they're holding on like that. And apparently one night it got out through one of the portholes and fell into the sea. And like the like biologist on the ship had to get one of the sample nets and scoop it. And like the man on watch heard the splash and heard it meowing and immediately turned the ship round and tried to catch it. So this poor cat survived so much. And then when they decided to abandon ship, Shackleton has to go and put a bullet in it. And the guy the woodworker never forgave Shackleton for this. To his dying day, he hated Ernest Shackleton for what he did. And when he was buried like with honours. And then after a few years, the locals raised money to get like a cast. They got like a statue of a cat to put on his grave, and so it lies there now with it. It's just like the sweetest thing, and I really feel for that guy. But yeah, Shackleton was a prick sometimes. But yeah, it's a difficult choice, and he had to do it. But yeah,
Miss Chippy.
Mrs. Chippy, yeah.
Mrs. Chippy.
Yeah.
That's Mrs. Chippy.
See, that's his grave, yeah. That's not Mrs. Chippy itself, obviously. That's just a statue.
It's the statue of Mrs. Chippy. But it's Mrs. Chippy.
Yeah, Mrs. Chippy is actually buried somewhere in the Antarctic, but yeah.
There's only a few. There are a few animals get statues, but only a few. And
only a
Mrs.
few,
Chippy is one of them. That's quite interesting.
It's really sweet that I like the sort of like the feeling that man had for that cat, that he hated Shackleton till his
Well, I think as an animal lover, though, at the same point, I'd have thought I'd rather carry the cat in my coat and deal with it and do whatever than just like at the last possible resort, I suppose you'd want to murder it. But
because at that point you are literally counting the food for the calorific intake that it has and whether you can eat it. You're literally thinking about like how many little grams are going to add to the weight of the thing that you're carrying. So,
do you think they ate Mrs. Chippy?
No.
It's got a calorific content. I'm glad.
I don't think they went that far, but I think it wasn't that desperate. But some polar explorations they might have done.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm vegan.
But yeah, the fact that the endurance is found is a really incredible thing, because like ancient shipwrecks and stuff, they freak me out as well. They have like the deep sea I have as a morbid fascination for, and like wrecks like that, they're really I find them really cool. That's been sat there for 100 years, and because the water's so cold, it's not as taken over by like sea life as it would be if it was in like warmer climates. There's very few worms or corals growing on it. There's very few fish like swimming in it, and normally fish do when they find like
Yeah,
sort of man-made reef like this, they would take advantage of it. So, yeah.
Little piece
the fact
of
that
history.
it's that well preserved, considering it's been crushed by ice and sunk, is quite impressive. So, yeah, that's a cool thing.
I think we're good tonight, aren't we? That's a piece of history.
Yeah.
We've so is 2022. That's all history now. And,
nice little.
Just broadcast professional, mate. Total professional as well. My whole setup today, everything. So we've got lots coming up in the future. Obviously, we'll be back with more. What we're going to do this year is we're going to be doing every Monday, aren't we? So everyone can. We change it if that's what people want. Or I'm open-minded to the idea that it doesn't have to be a Monday. It's just at the moment fits well with both of us and our schedules and all that.
We're going to alternate, aren't we, between podcasting and fucking about in games.
Podcasting and fucking about. That's exactly. If I was to write a treatment for a sponsor, I'd just write those two words, fucking about, all as one word, like podcasting, fucking about, like that, and then that'd just be fine. And also open brackets, the amount of money I want, close brackets. That's my sponsor treatment. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to alternate it. You're right. We're going to have more serious topics with a proper headline and a bit of research and Steve's psychological brain in gear, and other weeks where we can just relax a bit, chill, play some games, chat some shit. And do some stuff. So thanks everyone in chat today specifically as well for being here, and if you've got any ideas, like I think someone based Kanye episodes, like, you know, if you've got ideas for episodes, then throw the ideas in the hat and we will definitely consider them. Write a WordPad schedule and post it on Twitter. I'll tell you what I have done. I took this.
ALT did, and they left in the cursor.
No, I didn't do the full. I saw ALT did the full scale thing, but all I took from Phil was that I should actually make more of an effort and make it. Like, I've made a calendar here where I'm going to be on stream like every day, doing my streaming. You know, trying to be here, more present, more consistent. That's the word, isn't it? Consistent. So I made myself a little schedule, even if I don't post it on Twitter in a WordPad document. But I'll be back on Wednesday in the daytime doing a stream for charity. What we do is on Wednesdays we do some kind of game, whether it's Words on Stream or Words on Stream doesn't work sometimes, so we just have to give the money to charity anyway, just mess about. But we find some way to turn your chat and involvement into winning money for charity. So that's the idea with Wednesday, and onwards and upwards. Steve, thank you very much.
No, Scott, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm pleased with everything.
It's been great, you know, doing this with you, and
that was the thing. You know, that was part of.
I've
we didn't get
onto
onto this bit. Yeah, we didn't get onto this bit. I was going to go through the channels and talk about the channels and stuff, but the main thing for me that's happened this year is that I've started working with Steve. And I people that watch my content will know this, is that I did about a year streaming where I said I'd like to get up to speed, so I know what's going on and get familiar with all the stuff, so that I can say I'm. I don't have camera problems, for example, and then I want to start bringing in guests and doing a podcast. And I've also got this space in the room as well that we can start bringing in guests. But this has been a huge step forward having Steve. Thank you, Steve, for joining me, because it has been a huge step forward in the content, and it gives us, as much as this little technological thing gives us the ability to do greater things in the future, it's also your brain, Steve. So thank you very much for that. That's been a big part of my feeling of positivity, positive, meaningful content. That's what we were going to call tonight, wasn't it? We were going to call that.
Oh yeah, that's the bit at the end when we have like an episode of talking about like serial killers or murders and shit, and then it's like we need to decompress for a little bit. Let's have a light, relaxing unwind. This is the positive, meaningful content section.
Okay, I've got that in my brain now. I can picture what we need is like a backdrop of like a very like a fireplace and a nice comfy sofa, maybe some jelly bean sweets, and we can just dissolve into this other space and move into the positive, meaningful content space. And
like footage of kittens playing with balls or something.
Very like Words original, and like there could be some relaxing Bing Crosby style music in the background. I'll work on it for the future. But thanks everyone. Thanks you. Thanks Steve. I'm going to press end stream now, and Steve's going to stay on. Obviously, the
thanks
drill,
chat.
Don't you?
Thank you everybody.
But thank you everyone in chat. Thanks for your, you're making this part of it. I'm feeling the COVID now in the fact that I can't really get my words out after speaking for about 3 hours. So I think I'm just going to like try and draw it to a close with the right button. Right, now I don't know which button to press now. I've got like a million buttons. Yeah, so I'm going to press this one. And remember, if you can't be